Welcome everybody. Today we have the finals of the World University Online Championship. I'm FIDE Master Antoni Szustakowski, and today I'm joined by
International Master Piotr Nguyen.
And
so we are very happy to
we will be hosting the event today for you. So we have two separate groups. One is the final for the open section, and the other one is the final for women's section. Both are round-robin tournaments for 6 people. The rate of play is 10 minutes plus 5 seconds per every single move.
Yes, and already the game has started, so let's move on to the games. And I think we can start with the open section. So we have some very strong players, grandmasters, international masters. So let's move on to those games.
Yeah, the first game is of Grigory Oparin and Ali Marandi Kamil Khan. Both are really strong grandmasters, and I think Grigory is the top seed for the tournament, so he's definitely the favorite. Let's see how it went.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just by the way, if anyone has any questions to us about, any chess games, or if anyone wants to suggest that you don't hear us very well or something, just let us know in the comments. We are looking at the comments, so we will be very happy to connect with you and answer your questions.
Yes. Okay. So let's move on. We've got some G3 Greenfold incoming. That was a very topical line. I think a year before pandemic. Castle, and Queen a4. This move does protect the c4 pawn, and it also...
Yes, but Queen a4 is a little bit rare, right, at this stage. I think Queen b3 or b3, also some lines with Knight bd2 I think are much more popular at this stage. While the Queen a4 is more interesting, where Black still hasn't castled yet. So then the c takes d5 is a threat, because somehow... but with this move order, probably that was wrong move order to play Queen a4, because Black still can castle. And after c takes d5,
Knight b6, very strong intermediate move, hitting the queen, hitting the pawn at the same time. Queen retreated. C takes d5, knight c3, knight c6, b3, bishop to g4, bishop to e3. The bishop does look a bit awkward here, I would say.
Yes, that's true.
But maybe that was the necessity, because as we can see, Black creates a threat of taking the knight on f3 and then taking the pawn on d4 because it's attacked by bishop and by a knight. So bishop a3 might have been a necessity.
Yeah, I think the position is around equal, but as Black, I think I would be very happy with the outcome of the opening, because Black doesn't seem to have any problems. And yeah, this Queen a4, Queen d1 maneuver, okay, unless it's some very deep theory, I believe White lost some time and lost the momentum, and yeah, Black's setup is very harmonious. Now he may think about rook c7, rook c8, of course, maybe first a6 to stop any knight b5 jumps, but apart from this, I don't think he has any problems. He can also play bishop h3 if needed. That's also one of the ideas, to trade his light squared bishop, which is probably a bit worse bishop, because his d5 pawn is on the light square, then he can play e6 later. So yeah, all in all, Black's setup is just very, very good.
Yeah, maybe he has taken the initiative over already at this point, because we can also have a look at the time. Grigory has only 7 minutes left, even less than 7 minutes, and Ali Marandi is on 10 minutes, so he basically used no time in this opening. So we would say that Black is doing fine, and maybe even better than fine.
Yes, certainly. The time is a very, very important factor in this type of games. Well, the rapid chess, it's not a classical game, so yeah, every minute counts. And okay, maybe 10 versus 6, we don't feel like it's a big issue, but when both players will lose 3 more minutes or something, 7 versus 3, that would be a big problem for White.
Yeah, and Queen d2 play, that was the move I was about to suggest. It's a typical developing move, but What's white point? Rook fd8 played immediately. Black is really confident in this game. Maybe he's stepping out of some bishop h6 idea, because then he can take on f3, and maybe knight x d4 or bishop takes d4. I'm not.
Yes, but even if he didn't have this trick with bishop takes f3, after bishop h6 he could move the bishop to h8, for example, because the rook is not on f8. So rook d8 was just a very useful move, and what's more important, was played instantly. So yeah, now it's again white's problem to actually create some play.
But at the same time, he's quite solid, because we can see that the knight on b6 is quite strongly restricted by this b3 pawn, and I'm not entirely sure where black should create his chances, like chances to get some advantage or get some big play, because the position is really solid for both sides.
I mean, the structure is in some ways symmetrical. I mean, the b3 or b7, but in general, we could say that this is symmetrical structure. So in fact, in such structures, it's not easy to generate any, pawn breaks and so on. I mean, pawn levers. e5 would be one of them, but of course, white, even though he played very passively, it's not like his position is bad. I mean, it's still quite solid. But yeah, it's probably around equal, where, as I said, black has very harmonious setup.
Okay, queen e1 played, and I guess not much is going to happen, so I guess we can move on to another game.
Yes, so let's have a look at the next
game. Number 2, Mikhail Antipov versus Robbie Kevlishvili. e4, c5, knight f3, d6, bishop b5, that's the Moscow variation of the Sicilian.
Yes, it's not a Rossolimo, as some people say.
It's a Moscow variation. c4 is a really tricky move. It's not that popular, like, for example, I know castles or any other ideas. But okay, let's check how the play went. Takes, d4. White got some really nice center. Some spatial advantage, but black at the same time has a bishop pair, so it's, I guess, dynamically equal.
Yeah, but I would argue that white has some slight edge in this kind of Marozzi bind structures.
Okay, wait a moment.
Unless
b5.
Black,
that escalated quickly. Let's take a look, because the b5 square is supposedly quite strongly defended, but can white really take it? He takes, knight b5. Oh, that's a trick. Knight takes e4. Really nice. If knight takes, bishop b5, and we have a pin along the a file. The bishop is immune due to rook takes a1. Very good.
Yeah, that is big, because when we were talking about the bishop pair at first, that wasn't really important, but when the game really opened, then it really matters. Okay, now no longer the bishop pair exists because the bishops were exchanged, but now black has pressure down the b file and the a file. It's like the Benko.
Yes, because especially the pawn on b3, it requires permanent protection. After bishop retreats, because it was attacked by the rook, the queen has to stay in contact with the pawn for the time being. And black, okay, rook e3 does an interesting overprotection, because now the queen is free to move, because the rook does protect this pawn.
Yes, that's right.
Queen b4 immediately. I guess black is a little bit better, because of this play along the a and b files, and at the same time his position is quite solid, but the bishop is weak. It doesn't.
Yeah, also
do much.
The queen on b4 stops any ideas of queen g4, knight h5.
Oh, knight h5
still
even though
played, because that's probably white's only idea to kind of generate some play on the king side, because where else?
Yes, and after knight h5, the pawn on g7 is really a target, because rook g3 is incoming. Then we take on g7 if we can, but g6 played.
Yes, but then another pawn is on the light square, and we have a light square bishop. I mean, this bishop on e8 doesn't look great.
Yeah, it does weaken the dark squares a lot. So it might be risky for black. I guess we have to change our opinion on this position.
Yes. I think we already have Grandmaster Bartłomiej Macieja in our studio.
Hi, Piotr. How are you?
Hi. We are fine.
Hello.
Okay, so I hope already if the viewers can hear you, probably still not see you.
Okay, with the seeing, there might be a little bit of a problem, but we will solve it after this round.
Yes, but they can hear you, so yes, so we can talk now, all of us.
Right. I heard, of course, and saw your comments. I like the structure of black more because the pawns in the center will be dominating. Pawns a4, b3 are not moving anywhere. They are actually weak, require protection. The only problem of black is the king. So if white manages to create some initiative on the dark squares, well, that's the only hope for white, and that might be dangerous for black. Otherwise, black is better. So black needs to survive now the attack. For instance, if knight f6, king g7, knight takes e8, if white tries to trade that bad bishop on e8, which Piotr referred to, then black should be fine in this position. The pawns will start moving in the center. White pawns are not going anywhere. On the other hand, it's difficult to keep that knight on f6. Maybe something like rook f3 or queen f3 can be played, but probably black can continue to attack, to pressure this f6 knight by playing queen d4. I would go to the center.
Queen e7 is bad because of knight takes d5. That's a tactical explanation.
Right now, knight takes d5?
If queen e7, then knight takes d5, obviously.
Oh, if queen e7, yeah.
Due to the pin. And queen d4, so I guess I have to go back to g4, and then maybe I can get some play on f6 and h6 squares.
I'm not so sure. It will be difficult, I think, for you to sneak somewhere there. Your first rank is pretty weak. Probably I can take somehow advantage of it.
Okay, the game got some action. G6, knight f6, king g7, rook to f3, rook c8, and
Yes.
h4. Okay.
That's probably a good idea because white cannot do anything just with one knight. So he tries to bring more pieces, and pawns in a way are also pieces which can attack. So h4 I think is a very good move.
But isn't that pawn hanging?
Yes, it is. Then the big question is what's happening after this. But I guess knight e8 and then rook c7.
That might be the case. But
the rook on the 7th.
But I could, after queen h4, I could take first on c1, takes, and then go queen h4.
Yes, but then queen c3 or queen b2,
yeah,
I would be
diagonal
worried.
problems might be quite huge.
Although then d4 and
d4,
the
I go
diagonal
queen
is
c7
close.
and create a threat of knight takes e8, followed by queen takes f7 because we then open up the rook.
Yes.
So that might be the case. Actually.
Yes, but actually, yes. We are not counting pawns.
Yes. I wouldn't give that c file to white. I would rather take on h4 immediately. Let's see what happens then.
Yeah, knight takes.
But then knight takes e8 and rook
e7
c7.
is forced, of course.
Okay.
And what then?
Okay, queen a1, king g8 is probably good enough, right? Okay, g3, queen g5 probably does not change that much
because the queen has to stay in contact with the rook, so we keep her on the diagonal.
Yeah, and white sacrificed the pawn, so pawn is a pawn.
You know, Piotr, when you give check on a1, I want to push my pawns. Why not to play e5?
I have to interrupt you because after queen takes h4, we've got the move queen to d2.
Oh,
partly.
Very slow.
That's
very
weird,
slow.
But maybe there's a point in this play, but I don't know.
White wants to go. White wants to reach that diagonal a1 h8. So that's what we are trying
or
to
maybe
do.
g3, because then there is no queen g5.
Yes.
So I guess this is the idea.
So if we, for example, play some random move, then the point is G3, right?
Yes.
And the queen has to go all the way back, but then I take on E8.
Yeah.
And the
But
rook
of
is
course, rook b8
overloaded.
was just terrible move. So is White's position really so good that he can, well, take some time and really play such a slow move like Queen d2? Because that's, I mean, really, really slow.
No, I don't think so, because Black King is safe there. The bishop on e8 is very passive, but on the other hand, there is no direct attack. So Black needs to start pushing the pawns, which actually will create problems to White. We can play e5, e4, or close the diagonal, protect our dark.
But e5 is connected with a pawn sacrifice, because then I can take on d5, right?
Well, we need to do it smartly somehow.
Yeah, but you're forced to take with the knight because of the back rank problems.
Yes, but I can because if I go g3 first, that was also the idea of
Queen d4. I will play.
I can go to maybe h.
No, Queen d4 is a good move. Queen d4 is a good move.
But is okay the end game, but the rook end game is probably a draw. Knight takes e8.
Queen d4, Queen d4. Ah, you want to take on c8? Aha, first. Oh, okay.
Okay, so let's see, because a lot of interesting things might happen, and Robbie Kevlishvili is just down to 2 minutes, so it will get heated.
Yeah, just going down below 2 minutes, just in 2-1. Now it's a bit below, so it's really, really getting hot.
And bishop to c6 is on the board, so he closes the c file, doesn't allow all those knight e8 tricks. So how about g3 now? Can we do it?
Yeah, because after g3 there are also later some ideas, maybe.
Queen h6 is probably the only move, because otherwise I put my queen on g5 anytime I want, or queen to the diagonal. And now I have to solve some issues with this position. So maybe that's the point. And then the idea is d4, opening up the bishop, closing up this diagonal, and maybe winning the game.
That's right. But okay, for a while I was thinking about some ideas of rook takes f7, but how to remove the knight from f6?
It's not that easy.
Probably not possible, because knight e8, then bishop.
Bishop takes, rook takes, and luckily black has bishop takes.
Yes.
But rook f4 is on the board, attacking the queen. It has to go to either g5 or h6. That's obviously forced, but which of the squares is better and why?
You know, Queen g5 allows some knight e8 check, which I'm not sure how scary it is.
Yeah, probably works. True. Probably works.
Yeah, because if bishop takes, then we take on f7, bishop takes, and we've got queen to g5. The queen is still protecting the rook, so that's obviously fine. The thing is whether after something like king to g8, black is in danger, but I think he is after knight d6.
I wanted to.
Yeah, because rook c7 we have, but after rook c7 it's not that clear if we have something, because the rook on f4 is pinned. This is another problem. So there are pins all over the board.
Okay, that's tricky, but we've got a move. We've got the safer one, queen to h6, and Robbie down to just 1 minute. So
yeah, but now
is
queen
in trouble.
d4 or knight g4. I mean, queen d4 maybe.
Oh, yeah, queen d4 does look strong.
Yeah, the queen on h6 looks really, really ugly.
And I guess the only move is, or maybe king h8. I can make an argument for.
Then I have a draw at least, right? or
I can take a lot of
pawns,
for example.
But what about some rook h4?
Yeah, that's simple and winning.
No, but the rook on c1 is hanging.
Oh no!
But yes, but king h2, and what will happen?
Okay, maybe it's winning then.
And then there's that problem. Okay, so
because king g7, rook h7, king f8, I have queen b4 check, which is almost a checkmate.
Yes.
Yeah, and after queen goes back, then we take and it's checkmate.
Yeah, that's a beautiful attack. Really.
Everything is cut off from the king. So it's down to Antipov decision right now, whether he finds queen d4, or maybe he sees something better. Or maybe queen d4 is not enough, because after queen d4 we can go king f8 and try to say it's
queen
good.
d4 was a good move. You just take control over the dark squares, which is very important.
Yeah, that's
now.
true.
So this move must be played.
Okay, so I guess we're gonna wait for white to make a move, because it's 150 versus 1 minute, so that's kind of close, and the game is really, really complex.
Mm-hmm.
He might be thinking of knight g4 right now, and only then followed by some check.
That's an interesting idea, because he has to go to
Yeah, the queen d5 f7. Mm-hmm.
h5, or
Yeah.
I'm not sure where to go with the queen. Like maybe
Probably to h4, because h5 then queen d4, although queen d4 e5 still maybe, but e5, but this looks
knight
really
takes,
bad.
c6 is
Can we
hanging,
play
king
knight
is,
e5? Yes.
f7 is hanging as well.
After queen h4, I would play.
After queen h4, okay, knight to e5, hitting this, but bishop e8 is a move. Not
what about the queen?
Not it isn't. Okay, so we've got queen d4, king f8, and rook to c3. The famous rook lift.
Yeah, this position is, I mean, my gut feeling is that white is winning here. It must
I
be.
agree. But it's everything because of that bishop c6 move, which was terrible. It lost dark squares, plus the rook on c1 is not hanging anymore. So kind of solved problems of white. And the counter play to that direct attack on the black king was the checkmate on the first rank. Now it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
So
That's right. So actually, by playing bishop c6, black also closed the rook on a8, because in a way the rook could trade somehow. But now the rook on a8 in particular is completely useless.
so the entire position collapses. I guess that was okay. What happened? G5 and rook to g4. Okay, maybe there is some fighting chance, but not really. Bishop to e8.
I mean, these are the problems of the blitz or rapid chess, and I mean all the fast time control, but also in the classical chess when you don't have time, actually, that the position might be completely winning,
And we've got checkmate.
But
Rook takes
is
g5.
checkmate.
Wow.
But sometimes you cannot find this finishing blow, and even though the position is winning, it's still not that easy to deliver. But here white managed to play very, very nice.
Yeah, queen takes g5 was not possible. Okay, maybe it was forced, but it doesn't work.
But that's easy.
Knight
Yes,
h7.
but that's easy.
Black tried rook c3, but after queen c5, the king is in the mating net. Okay, so we've got our first result. Let's jump to the third game. Let's jump to the position that is live. It's the game between Leon Livaic and Kirill Shevchenko.
Yeah, so
what do we have here?
This is kind of a King's Indian structure where a lot of exchanges on the queen side, and funny pawns on the king side. Especially white's pawns are quite funny here.
Yeah, that's true.
So white has the only problem of white is the bishop on g2, but I think this is solvable because the position on the queen side is open. So this bishop can be moved to f1, probably followed by some king g2. White position will be safe on the king side, and then white should be better.
Because the bishop, yes, indeed, from f1 can be easily improved. Actually, on f1 it's good enough. It doesn't need to move.
But the bishop goes to f1.
Yes, and if black goes bishop to f8, it's still a long way to improve that bishop.
Yeah, like we have to go e7, d8,
black
and then b6.
Trying to move the bishop to h6. But at least earlier, a few moves earlier, but it wasn't possible because of g5.
Yeah, if the bishop
I mean, move like 34 more or less.
Yeah.
Let's come back. Yes, somewhere here. So black played h5, 35, h5, and then I thought black was trying to play bishop h6, but there is a problem of g5, and black saw there was no defense against this. Some knight h7 maybe, but then white plays bishop e3, and again you cannot go
yes,
to
because
h6.
white quickly played bishop e3, so yeah, there was really no way to trade those bishops. So white is pressing, white position is clearly better, but when we don't have that much time, some ideas of knight takes g4 or knight takes
okay,
e4
he sacrifices
could
a
be
pawn.
really, could be scary.
Bishop takes c5 is maybe possible. Takes, or is it? Queen a7?
Yeah, probably.
Pinning.
Yeah,
Queen
he would
f3.
get then bishop h6 or bishop f8 or something.
Yeah, it's tricky, definitely.
Because bishop f8, rook c3 takes and bishop c5 at the end.
Yeah, winning the exchange. So white went g5, and we've got a sack. Knight takes e4.
Yes.
Pawn takes e4, knight takes e4, and rook takes c7 is not possible due to queen g4.
And the queen on d2 is hanging. Yeah, so this is what I was saying, that even though like statically white's position was better, now, well, we have a fire on the board, and
it might collapse really quickly.
Yeah, 5 seconds on on the clock, then actually everything can happen.
Yeah, queen d2 protecting c3. He didn't want to accept the sacrifice, and what's the point now? Okay, rook c8, knight to e2, and can black do any sort of airstrike? Or it's not the moment. Takes, rook to c3, getting some pressure on the bishop. 8 seconds only for Leon, so it might be really down to the wire.
Yeah, white has 2 pieces for the rook, but this is a typical like sacrifice, like Mikhail Tal like to sacrifice 2 pieces for the rook, because here the rook is really dominating.
Bishop on e5, targeting h2.
White king is very weak.
Yes, and white has
white
2
is not
pawns.
gonna survive this. It's much easier.
White's knight also doesn't have any outpost. It is just passive piece.
Can bishop g3 be played right now? Or is it too much?
Yes, bishop g3.
Queen takes, queen e2,
Well,
king
you
g1.
don't need it.
I know, but I'm just trying to deliver something.
Yeah, it was possible, yeah.
And rook c3.
Then rook c3, probably that's the game over.
Yeah, but he didn't find it.
But rook takes a2 was played. And no, but rook a2 is a good enough. I mean, you just take a pawn and then, well, 2 pieces have hard time to fight the passed pawn usually.
Yes, queen f5,
now queen g5.
G1. Oh, okay, now it's over. He takes on e3, and king f2 is impossible due to queen to g3. So a nice win for Kirill, and we already have the result. That moment with knight takes e4 was really tense, but he found all the necessary moves and won quite convincingly.
Yeah, so this is what I really don't like about the King's Indian. I mean, playing against the King's Indian, because quite often I get the dominant position, but then in the time trouble, the opponent sacrifices something and it's a mess, and then I lose.
Okay, so we've got all 3 results of open section. Grigory Oparin won, Mikhail Antipov and Kirill Shevchenko. Let's briefly check the women's section. Yulia Antolak won a game against Isha Sharma. Anna Sargsyan, the champion from the Blitz section, defeated Zhao Shengjin, and Yulia Osmak defeated Olga Badelka. Okay, so I guess we're done with the first round, and we will move on to some quick break. We'll be back soon. And we are back for the round 2. In this round we will stay mostly with the women's section. So let's jump to the first game, Julia Antolak versus Olga Badelka. Let's see how it started. e4, c5, knight d2, d6, g3, knight f6, bishop g2, and we've got some, I don't know how to even call it.
Yeah, it's very rare line, but I think white is slightly better in this kind of structure. So this knight e2 is quite tricky. Yeah, I think it wants to avoid any Najdorf Sicilians or some dragon Sicilians, and this setup is quite harmonious for white.
It reminds me of some sort of closed Spanish setup.
But with the bishop on g2, I don't know. But one way or the other, I think white's position is quite nice here. If black's knight was on e7 rather than on f6, that would be a different story.
Maybe then some f5 could happen, right?
Yeah, but also it just doesn't block the bishop on g7.
That's true, and it can
the
have
way
more
it is.
impact.
The way it is, I kind of feel like white's position is very, very nice.
f4. Okay, Julia, after win in the first game, goes for another immediate fight. f4. It's optimistic.
Yeah, big move.
It looks good.
It's a big move, and I'm not sure it's necessary. I wouldn't do it. I would probably think about playing some d5, ensuring I have more space, and then playing on the queen side as usually you do in King's Indian structure.
But if we take on e5 with the pawn, then we have an open file for the rook. We can jump with our bishop and create some pressure.
Yeah, I think there are many threats at this point. I mean, white can play f5, or actually first d5 and then f5. He can take first on e5 with either pawn and then push either d5 or f5. I think it's very, very dangerous.
Yes, it is. So, do we have any suggestion for Olga right now?
Maybe e takes f4 has to be played, maybe, but yeah.
Well, black can try to take on d4 as many times as possible, and then try to attack e4 by playing bishop b7, rook e8.
Maybe rook e8 immediately.
Often in those Spanish structures, the d6 pawn can be terribly weak, but then there's some counterplay on e4, so that would be really good.
We would have to check how it works. So let's see how it goes. So let's move it. E4, CD4, CD4. No. I want to take even.
Okay, even more. All right. Takes knight takes and take one more.
Knight takes.
Okay.
Just take on d4.
Take and go here.
And bishop b7.
Knight c3.
Yes, we have to check if there is a move e5 in all positions, which might be sometimes winning.
Okay, maybe. But if we in the world we have some regular play, and that's the position we are looking at.
Yeah, we are aiming at counterplay at e4 pawn. So that's logical, but that's also quite risky for black, because this e5 break probably works, and if it works, then then whole concept was not the best. So what was the move played in the game?
C takes d4, C takes d4 was played, and now can e takes d4 be a move, or do we go e5 immediately?
No, immediately maybe not.
Maybe yes, even.
Or maybe it has to be calculated.
Takes. We take the knight, we attack the rook, we attack another knight. Looks massive.
But bishop takes h3, and some chaos.
I take the piece, okay.
To calculate it for us. Some bishop takes f6 because b2 is hanging. No, let's take over the bishop. Take my rook on a8, queen takes a8. So kind of my.
But white is a piece up here, right?
Yeah, he is.
Temporarily, yes.
And I want to just go back to g2 and claim I'm better with that piece. But we've got the move d5, closing. Not closing, opening up the center even more.
Oh, this is very difficult now. d5 is either very good or very bad.
First of all, e takes d5 is not the best, I guess, because I think I can take with the knight and then create some. Or can I?
Well, white would have to play bishop d5 right now and d5 if already something like that happened. But of course, that gives black some compensation, like queen e4.
No,
even not a
actually bishop
compensation.
takes
I take the pawn back, and I'm happy.
But this position is still, I mean, of course, black's fine, but it's not like super clear because the bishop on g7 a little bit close. So this position is not good for white, but also not like terrible. I mean, maybe just tiny bit worse.
Yes, guys, don't trade the queen. Play queen e4 and then try to give checkmate on light squares.
Yeah, maybe that's the idea. Queen e4 attacking the bishop and aiming at move bishop to
h6. That's a big improvement.
But we've got f takes e5 and knight takes e4, and the knight is a little bit stabilized here. So I would say black survived the worst.
Yes, that's true. The big question is if white can somehow attack the d5 pawn, but that's probably also not that easy because any knight f4 is just not possible because knight g3. So, yeah.
You need to develop knight c3, knight b1 to c3, and then.
But then knight takes c3 is possible, for example.
I can take back with a knight even, or pawn just to push c4 later on.
Yes,
but you will never push c4. I will just put the knight to c4.
You say so?
Let's try to see. B takes c3. It's just knight a5. Okay, knight f4.
Attacking this bishop b7, I guess, has to be played.
Yes.
Then maybe some sort of e6 or queen f3 hitting d5. How about this?
But this is not easy because I'm not afraid of knight takes d5. I can just play rook c8 first.
Can I? Okay, I play. All right, I play rook c1, and I want to go for knight d5, like really, because I've got knight f6 later on.
No, but knight f6 still it's not killing me. I mean, the bishop on b7 will be looking at
your
queen, and
and I'm happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
But you can sidestep it.
But I can also play knight c4 and you still cannot take on d5.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
knight
true.
c4.
Yes, but don't play rook c1. We need this rook on the e file. So play bishop f2, bishop e3 to f2.
Okay.
And if knight c4, then you will play rook e1. And then you will probably play e6.
Or rook d1, because now knight d2. Knight d2.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that could have been an option. But we've got a move knight to d2 by Julia. Knight takes, queen takes, and bishop e6. So the structure remains the same. There's no b takes c3 incoming in, I guess, the entire game. So what can we say now?
White is better because white has a better structure, plus white has a better bishop. So
yeah, maybe some trades, even bishop h6 could be considered.
Right, even bishop g5 we can check if works. That might be unpleasant. We have to calculate f6, but maybe knight f4 will happen. I would prefer to go to g5, yeah, and then knight f4.
Yeah, that's tricky, because if we take the bishop, then we take, obviously, the bishop on e6, and we do a fork, takes, and white is just better. But rook to d1 was played, and rook to c8. The time is more or less equal for both sides. So, I guess both of the ladies have similar chances here.
I think white is slightly better here.
Maybe she is, but it's not easy at all.
No one said it's easy, but
especially in the rapid game.
White has a bit more space, and with this knight f4, I think it's more likely that white can put some pressure on some of those, vulnerable squares like d5, e6. Well, black is more like defending here.
Yes, so now the big decision time for white, because we want to trade those bishops. And bishop h6 happened, so the decision has been made. And if we trade, then we get the access to the f6 square. We go knight f4, we hit the bishop, we hit the pawn. It might get really dangerous pretty soon.
Yeah, so that's pretty clear that white is better here, while black cannot really penetrate on the queen side. I mean, if we trade on h6, then we can always play some rook d2 or something. We will cover all the weaknesses.
Yeah.
Probably black should try to play f6 instead of taking on h6.
f6 right now. Okay. What happens if I take, and go knight f4?
Well, in this move order, I can do basically whatever I want. In the other, and in other move order, I couldn't even do anything. So here, queen d7, I can play. I can move my bishop away to g8.
It's not that easy, but Olga decided to play knight to e7. The knight is transferring himself to the f5 square. Knight c3, and now probably knight f5, right?
But I feel like knight e7 was a bit artificial. But it's also very concrete, so maybe we shouldn't just look at this like, how it looks, but how really it works very concretely.
No, it's a bad move, definitely. White can always play g4 and limit that knight. The knight is not going anywhere.
Yeah, but if the knight already goes to f5, then g4, there are some tricks maybe with knight h4. It's maybe, that's why I was thinking maybe g4 immediately, but
yes.
I don't know. But because here maybe
instead of knight c3.
Yes. In that sense, I felt like really knight e7 didn't look just that good. It was just pointless.
Yeah, that seems like.
Just the knight doesn't belong here unless black can play bishop takes h6 and rook c2. But this really is playing with the fire.
Yeah, rook c2. I can basically play rook to d2, blocking all the second rank, and I guess I'm fine. But knight c3, knight f5 is on the board. So I guess Julia has to take, because that's the plan. That was the plan of bishop h6, so there's no point going all the way back. So
that's right.
I guess she takes, Olga takes back, and queen f2, okay, that's on the board. Preparing the infiltration through the f file, maybe, getting some g4 later on. Maybe that's the point. And there's a big threat, or maybe it's not really a threat, because if we do something random, g4, knight h4, my point was that after queen f6, if we take, I take back with the pawn, give a check, king goes back, and then I take on d5 and win a pawn. But it's not that
there's
easy.
some rook c3 there is, so you need to be a bit careful. But knight takes d5 is possible.
Okay, so that was basically just my idea to win the pawn.
Because knight g2, knight e7 check. But even if we don't take the pawn, I mean, this knight on h4 might be lost in some lines, or...
But go with the king to h6 and then try to go king g5, and actually black may have a very good position. Then you will play h5 and maybe black will be better. f6 will be hanging. Who knows?
Yeah, but first taking on f6, of course, not coming here.
Don't go like that.
all right. Yeah. My bad.
Yeah, but white shouldn't trade queens unless it gives some benefits instantly. But normally we want to put some pressure. I think white is better here because we've got a better bishop. The bishop on g2 is much better than the bishop on e6, and also the e5 pawn is better than the pawn on f7. So I think it's easy to see it.
But we've got some sort of big move, queen g5 on the board.
Rook d3.
Yeah, rook d3 is the first move to consider, protecting both e3 and g3 and claiming that we're fine and we're gonna take the pawn, or maybe push g4, remove the knight away, and so on and so forth. But the question is if we can do something more concrete. Is there such a possibility?
No need for more concrete. King h2 white can play as well. White needs to protect
King
the
h2, then maybe knight d3. And on queen d2, I guess I go like queen h6, protecting the queen. H6. Oh, knight takes f1, just immediately. Checking the king.
No, king h2 of course is a bad move. Rook d3 must be.
Yeah, rook d3 I guess has to be played, and then we have a long-lasting advantage for white because what happened? We've got some move, but
black will play h5 after rook d3, I assume, trying to play h4 maybe, and then after g4 knight g3.
Yeah, maybe that's the idea. In fact.
But he's sacrificing a pawn on d5.
That's the case, and that's the move to consider.
Yeah, and I think knight takes d5 is, I think, quite good, because after the straight we can move back, move the bishop back to e4, and then the knight on f5 is not so stable.
Yeah, but after rook d3 we've got a really modest move, rook c to d8, just protecting the pawn, and black doesn't want to play with fire that much. So now it's white's turn to maybe create something. We can now go g4 probably, forcing the knight to go to h4, I assume, and then maybe trade queens.
But again, king will go to h6, and I don't like.
Okay, I go maybe bishop h1 and get some play along the fifth rank.
Yeah, but then you can lose the pawn on f6.
Maybe, but knight d2 played and h5, just stopping all those g4, so it won't bother us anymore.
White can consider playing queen f4, trading the queens in this way.
Yeah, that's a sensible option, because if we take now, we have an option to take with the rook, take with the knight. The knight looks like the most natural move, creating more pressure on d5 and getting the rook to c5 quickly.
Exactly.
Yeah, so h5 has been played, and Julia is a little bit down on time comparing to Olga, because 2 minutes versus 2:15. h4 was played. That's an interesting move. Queen goes back and knight to f4. But now black got access to the g4 square. Maybe that's a little bit unnecessary from white, but who knows? Yeah, knight h6.
Yes, I also don't like it.
And bishop can come out.
h4 weakens g4.
Yeah.
Yeah, so rook c3, maybe sidestepping bishop f5.
Knight h3
or knight
on
h3.
the board.
I'm not so sure, because the knight on f4 looked good, so I wouldn't touch it.
Transferring the knight on to g5 does not seem like anything improving the position that much. But the time is getting low, so I guess that's the explanation for some weird maneuvers.
Now black can even play f6, and black's position is getting, well, becoming better and better.
Yeah, f6 could have been an option, because if we take, then the rook gets opened up. We can move another rook to the f file, and it's gonna be hard. But
I think it should be played, because otherwise, I don't know what. Maybe rook c8, but there are not that many options for black. I mean, black eventually wants to go f6, so I think there is no better moment than now.
Yes, that's true. But that's a move to be calculated a little bit, so that's why black takes.
No, I don't think there's much to calculate. I mean, the lines are pretty short here. I mean, you either decide or not. I mean, and white is, black is coming down below 1 minute in 3 seconds. Now, okay.
We've got some delay, I assume.
We had some delay, so still a bit more time than we thought, but yeah, it's not much. I mean, now the time is a big factor.
So we have the line you mentioned, f6 takes, and queen went all the way back to c1, just to take back on f1 with the queen. So what are the options for both sides right now? But the one thing I really like right now is that the knight can go to f4 and get a little bit more squares to attack. d5, e6, and g6. There are 3.
Oh, of course. I mean, the white's advantage. Earlier, I said that he has a bishop pair, and the e5 pawn is better than f7. So even though we exchange the e5 pawn for f7, white still keeps the better bishop. So that's why it's not a surprise that white is still tiny bit better.
Or is she? It's not that easy right now, because both sides have a lot of weaknesses, and all of them can be targeted quite quickly.
I mean, if black manages to exchange bishops, then the second advantage, which I was referring to, I mean, is gone. So then indeed, black's position is constantly improving.
But she sacks a pawn right now. It's not really a sacrifice, I guess, but because if we take, then bishop takes, we take the pawn on d5, and we've got knight e3.
Or queen e3, or queen e3. I don't know.
Knight e3 or queen e3, but knight e3, I guess, wins a piece, right? Because the knight is hanging.
because this knight is terribly placed.
Yeah.
Right.
And if we go here, then we can take the knight. So, and the pawn is immune, of course, but there are some other possibilities for Julia. Although her time is getting really, really low. Rook takes c8, queen e3, intermediate move, king to h1, 18 seconds. That's really...
and if queen takes g3, is that a move? Because the rook c7 is intermediate move, not possible, because the queen covers that square.
It targets h2. What would be the plan here?
I think queen f4. Queen f4.
Queen f4, queen e1.
Then bishop f1.
Bishop f1 is bishop. Okay, it might be too much.
Or
bishop
queen
f4.
f1.
Who knows? Who knows?
It's
Queen f1 is definitely bad because I take and take on the c8 back. So let's see. Maybe
but without the pawn, it's still holdable.
Yeah, or maybe it is, but I would prefer to play with the pawn than without it.
Yeah, sure.
So king h1, and
the end of the world.
The situation is getting trickier and trickier regarding the time. Just 10 seconds for black. Of course, we do have some delay. Oh, and it's jumped up. Queen takes, g3, queen f4, takes on c8, knight takes d5. That's a weird decision somehow, because in this kind of endgame, I guess white is tiny bit better.
It's difficult.
Yeah, I think it's
because if black manages to somehow break with g5, then black might be completely fine, even slightly better.
Okay, it is probably draw, as we would call it. But with a low time, everything can happen, surely.
Yeah, but now there are concrete threats. Now the b2 is hanging, knight c1 might be...
And bishop b7, that's the move to be played, I guess.
Yeah, like maybe first, because knight c1, knight c3 would be just nothing. So first we may try to eliminate.
Apparently.
But it was played. But now knight on c1, well, black needs to be careful not to lose it.
It can be trapped.
Quite easily. Only a few moves, and we can see that
happened. Knight has to go back to b4, and it targets c2. Then, if knight b4, a3, knight c2 forks the pawn, forks the king. So
yeah, but no one will play a3 after knight b4.
Yeah, that's true.
After knight b4, we
bishop
could
b4
consider
on the board.
Yeah, bishop b4. But then g5, and black succeeds in exchanging the pawns, and the h pawn might turn out to be much more dangerous than the d pawn.
It was played, but the knight is being kicked away.
Yeah, but it's not the end of the world. But okay, knight a6, knight b5, then targeting a7.
Yeah.
That's
the point.
Why did white take on g5? Why not a3 immediately? So then after knight a6, knight d5 check, and then I take on g5 and win.
Yes, that was cleaner. That was cleaner. Yeah. So
okay, now
the answer probably why not is that, white didn't have much time. So h take g5 is kind of an automatic move. But given more time, I guess white should find such a nice trick.
h4, d5, bishop to d7. So it's getting really sharp, because which of the pawns is more dangerous?
H pawn should be more dangerous, but now white has an extra pawn, and that is a game changer.
And another pawn can be created, another passer. So many possibilities, and white has better time, so that's definitely an advantage for her. And bishop to c8 and knight to c4, getting some threat of knight b6, attacking the bishop. Then that would be interesting.
Yeah, if the b6 pawn falls, then it's all over.
Yeah, knight to c3. And if knight b6, then the pawn can be pushed somehow. d6, d7, d8.
Yeah, but of course now
not
black
now,
b5.
but that's the idea. So anything can happen in this endgame. We've got a trade of the knights. Maybe it's a winning decision, but let's check it. The king is getting active. King f6 has to be played, otherwise king just steamrolls the position of black.
But black can consider also king g4, king g3. Everybody has a passed pawn.
That's
like
true,
h3, then h2.
and it has to be calculated quite carefully.
But my gut feeling is that white should be winning, although I haven't
d6 is a good move.
any
Getting
single
some,
line. Some room for the
space.
bishop.
Yeah, and
I think it must be winning. It must be winning.
So h3, let me try.
okay,
then
the players
f6,
do it
yeah.
for ourselves. They try it because they have not much time. King f6. All right. What now? It's getting weird. d7. It's winning. It's winning for white. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Let's bishop f3. But you take on f3. You don't take, because the other endgame, I'm not sure if it's winning.
But we can take, and there's this geometry. The queen will come to a8, and it's not only exchanging but actually winning the queen. So that's all over.
Very tense game and a very nice win for Julia. It's her second point in this tournament. I guess and
against very strong opponents.
There are no weak opponents in the final stage.
Sure, but I think by the rating, like about around 2400.
Yeah. Okay, let's check the results of other games. Julia Osmak defeated Zhao Shenjin, and Anna Sargsyan defeated Isha Sharma. And let's check the open section. We've got some games ongoing. Leon Levite defeated Robbie Kevlishvili, but let's stay with the live games. Ali Marandi versus Shevchenko. What is this?
Looks like white's winning.
Yes, but now b2 is hanging. It has to be. It's the threat that has to be dealt with quite quickly. The pawns should be enough.
There's no time. Oh, yeah. Then the result is completely open. With no time on the...
Definitely yes. But if we trade queens, it didn't happen, so we will not check it. But now the rook is pinned. Is there any motive? Not really. G takes h6, g7. That's weird. Definitely weird for me. Rook c5, although black looks like he's stabilizing a bit.
After b3 there is a check, queen g2 check, that's the idea, and take on c4, take on g7. Maybe rook c4 first has to be played, because here I have queen b2.
So queen d4 has been
but then
played.
Queen g2 and queen b2, and it's still not that clear, because you don't have time to...
Yeah, it will be a draw, looks like a draw. Because white will always have a perpetual check there. So,
and players went for another line, in which we end up getting a rook and game 2 versus 2. Which is drawn, but black is a little bit better due to that outside pass pawn. So
white will be fast enough to on the queen side to create a passer. So both sides will have to sacrifice the rook for the passer.
Yeah, and the players do they repeat a repetition or maybe not? No, not really. But I guess this game will end up in a draw pretty soon. And let's check the last game: Grigory Oparin versus Mikhail Antipov. That's another endgame. That can be really long. 2 bishops versus rook, 2 pawns versus 2.
Yeah,
maybe not. Maybe it will be short because of the threefold repetition. Black is threatening to play rook g1, so the bishop has to stay on the diagonal, and there are not enough squares.
Yeah, that's true. So maybe we are saved with the time.
Yeah, so that probably ends in a draw pretty soon. Yeah, because now, indeed, bishop c7 will be played. There are no other tricks.
No,
I guess.
bishop d4.
Or bishop d4.
Try to play bishop d4, yes, and after rook g1 to play g4. But black can start with g4, and then what's gonna happen? Do we have a move then? Because I want to win the pawn on g3.
So where to put the bishop? I don't know. Bishop,
to D1, to D1, Bishop D1.
Bishop D1, yeah, that's true. So we have Rook G1, G4, F takes G4, and E4.
No.
What is this?
E4. Okay.
But can White really win this kind of endgame?
Maybe
okay,
he
can try, but I can hardly believe. But maybe.
Maybe we'll get some lesson of checkmating with two bishops. It's not hard, but
yeah, much easier than the bishop and the knights.
But I don't really.
Happened in the individual championship in the stage group. There was that game, and unfortunately, the player with two bishops didn't succeed to give the check. Well, but maybe that's the reason why the player didn't qualify to the finals.
Yes, that's probably it. But here,
it might be lost in the long term.
Yeah, but Bishop G5, I've got King E5, and then how do you defend the pawn on E4?
Right. But I take on G4.
Okay, this is harder because this pawn is much more important.
No, maybe Bishop F5, try to take the pawn on G5.
But still, the point is that I need to capture
G4 is weird.
But King E3 could have been played as well. Can we play after Rook B4 King E3?
Maybe some check, I don't know.
King D4?
And check. Yeah, King D3, right? That's the idea. Maybe. But we've got the position with two bishops and one pawn versus the rook. It should be winning.
Yeah, because the problem is that I cannot kind of keep, for example, the rook on the e file and king on d6 forever. White will be able to reroute the bishop somehow and just push the pieces back.
Yeah, and the bishop has found its place on f4, and the question is whether maybe White will blunder some sort of idea with rook e1, king d4, and taking that pawn.
No, White needs to improve the king, like coming king to f6 now. I think this is the key.
I agree. It should be
okay,
winning
bishop to f6, and now the king can come to d6. And it's probably over, but it still requires some good technique.
It should be winning. It's just about time. Indeed, you can blunder that exchange sacrifice is the only thing which can happen. Otherwise, it's winning.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Bishop e6, bishop e7, and maybe now the king can come and we can push the pawn later on. And bishop e7 is played. Now the king can... Where does the king belong to? King d6, king has been played, and we just push the pawn. So it's basically over.
Yeah, this is very important in the endgames. The king activity is the key. And here White succeeded really to shoulder actually Black's king.
Yeah, the Black's king is so terrible, it doesn't have any impact on the pawn. And the pawn will
now
just
the pawn just moves.
Yeah.
Yes, now keeps rolling. That's simple as it is.
I guess now I can go bishop f6 and bishop e5.
No, just bishop f6 and e7. I think you don't even need to.
And the game is over. So we are done with this round, and we will come back after a short break, so stay with us. All right, so we're back with the round number 3. The round in the open section hasn't started yet, so I guess we can have a little bit of a talk about the tournament, as we have a tournament director with us. So how do you evaluate the entire tournament? How is it going from the side of an organization?
It was a difficult task. It's the first World Championship in this new format. The new format is because students represent now universities. They used to represent countries, and that didn't work that well. Universities had no reason why to, no incentive why to send students for the championship. There was no university classification. Right now there is. And the turnout is amazing. We have almost 1,000 students playing. Actually, if you merge the Blitz and the Rapid tournament, we have way over 1,000 participants. They are from at least 80 countries in the world. Over 200 universities are represented. That was a dream. We didn't know what to expect. We thought everything between 100 and 2,000. So that's a big range, and we are closer to 2,000. We actually wanted to have a limit of 1,000 students per event, because that's what Tornello envisioned could handle as a single tournament. So I am definitely really pleased to see so many students playing, so many universities from so many countries. As of now, everything is great.
Yeah, definitely, that's a big success. So it's not the final tournament of the event, of course. At the weekend, we will be back with some more action. This time it will be the team competition, right? Team Rapid and Team Blitz.
That's right. So we had on the 13th and the 14th of March the individual Blitz championship, and then a week later we had an individual Rapid championship, and this is the final of the Rapid championship individual, which we are seeing. And then on Saturday and Sunday we will be back with team versus team events. Only the top 4 teams based on the team classification, and the team classification was based on individual results, top 4 scores of universities. To say it in short, the system was a little bit more complicated, but basically the top 4 scores, and the top 4 scores needed to include one woman. Not all universities had a woman, which actually means they should recruit somebody. They should recruit a woman. FIDE, for FIDE, it's one of the most important tasks right now to develop women's chess as well, and that's why FIDE decided to have that requirement to have one woman on the team, which actually is very similar in many leagues. Every team has to have at least one woman.
Yeah, so that's basically fair. Okay, we have the games ongoing at the open section, so let's jump to the game between Mikhail Antipov and Ali Marandi Kamil Khan. We've got the Jacopiano, e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, d3, and white didn't somehow opt that early for the move c3. Maybe he was willing to go knight c3, knight d5 at some point.
Or he wants to stop any d5, because after c3 then sometimes d5 comes in, so yeah, he doesn't want to weaken the pawn on d3.
Yeah, so knight to d2, knight d6, and only after black went d6 he goes c3, because now d5 wouldn't be beneficial, because it would be played at 2 tempis, not at just once. Bishop goes back, and after couple of moves we have quite a typical position in the Jacopiano.
Yeah, but I think black has no problems here. He managed to put the bishop on a7 safely. He managed to play d5 before white managed to play d4. And yeah, because sometimes, at least, well, black has some weakness, or at least bishop e3 takes a7. Well, the rook is on a7, not so great. But here I think black has really no problems. I mean, is there anything he should worry about?
No, probably not, though white has some space advantage on the queen side, so typically in such positions white is slightly better, but nothing really terrible. By the way, when I played that move bishop c4 some 25 years ago, regularly people would joke, come on, be a man, play bishop b5, how can you play bishop c4? Now everybody in the world plays the bishop c4, including the top players in the world, trying to get some advantage there. But everybody would make jokes out of me with my bishop c4. I played bishop c4 against the Texas Tech University coach Alex Oniszczuk in the European Club Cup. Probably Alex is watching our broadcast today. The game finished in a draw. That was a very interesting game. But again, this fashion changes, and now white players try to avoid that Berlin defense. They try to find something new, and there's something new or something different. Maybe it's not new because bishop c4 was played, some centuries ago already. But now they try to find new ideas. And one of them is to keep the center solid, which is to keep this e4, d3, and try to expand on the queen side.
Yeah, so that's what we see.
Yeah, this is the modern approach to the openings, that don't try to force matters, just to try to get a game where there's some imbalance. And yeah, that's the way the people play.
Okay, and black played queen to e8. That's just a little bit mysterious for me. I get the point that it does protect the rook. Maybe there will be some opening of the e file, for example, after it takes d5.
No, the idea was to protect the e5 pawn. So let's come back maybe 2 moves if we can.
Yeah.
Knight b3. Yes, so you see white wants to play b5, ab5, ab5, knight e7, somehow take on d5, knight d5, and then e5 is hanging. So just to have it protected, black played queen e8. Also after b5, the pawn on b5 will be under attack.
Yeah, so that's really
and also
understandable.
maybe rook might come to d8, maybe not immediately, but I mean, once the queen went to e8, the d8 square might be useful either for the knight or for the rook.
I don't like the position of knight on d8. Don't go there, guys. Go to e7. And,
okay, but after it takes d5, we got
knight d5, and that's why we need queen on e8. And now look, the queen is attacking b5 and protecting e5. That's the idea of the queen.
Oh, all right. So that explains, I guess, everything. Bishop to e3 takes b6, a5, and knight to e7. Black wants to go knight g6, then knight f4, create some tension, some pressure on the king side. But can white somehow go along the a file? Maybe. After knight d7, we've got rook e1, knight g6, and g3.
g3 is a very nice prophylactic move. Then typically it's followed by king g2, just to protect everything on the king side. And the knight cannot go to f4.
Yes.
So it restricts the knight pretty nicely.
Yeah, and once there are not that many pieces on the board, it's difficult to sacrifice anything, because sometimes maybe knight h5 and f4, just sacrificing a piece. But here, I don't fully believe, or maybe actually black is preparing this.
Well, it might be dangerous, right? Because the rook is already on e6, so it's going to g6.
Yeah. So I said that it's not so dangerous, but actually with a closer look, it actually maybe it. Yeah, if this works, that may change the valuation drastically.
Mm-hmm. So we can see maybe king h2 was better than king g2. Now king h2, I'm not sure if there is enough. Yes, king h2 still can be played, right? Because after knight f4, knight gf4 probably right now can be played. But maybe we don't have to take. If we take, I'm not sure, because knight takes f4 and then rook g6 is my pre-move.
Okay, because rook g1, rook g6, and we don't have time for rook g3. Yeah, that's the problem.
So it's getting tricky. Maybe the move King G2 was too automatic because it's a standard move, so White played it without thinking that much. And if he thought more, then he would have played King H2, I guess.
Right, but still, King H2 can be played, and after Knight G4, just don't take on F4. Play Knight G1 to protect H3.
And it forces Black to go back, I guess.
Yeah, so maybe not Knight F4, but maybe some Rook to F6 after King H2.
Yeah, it can be possible.
Rook F6.
And targeting the F file.
But of course, the big question is whether I can jump to F4 at some point, because if not, then indeed the Knight on H5 is just pointless.
King H2 was played and Rook to F8. Okay, Black prepares the break with the pawn to F5. And getting...
Like Julia in the previous game, right? She also tried to be D5, E5, F5.
So this is a big moment because, Black just forgot about the pawn on A6. He believes that the attack will be very strong because, for example, A takes B6, I guess C takes B6, Rook A6, White wins a pawn, but then F5. And yeah, it's the Rook on A6 probably does nothing. White is too slow to go to the 7th or something, while F takes E4 is really a huge threat.
And if we take, then the Rook gets opened up quite quickly.
Yeah, very quickly.
And then we target the pawn on F2, and
yes, and we can double or even triple on the F file.
Yeah, we go back with the knight, then we double up. The Rook does protection, and we triple. So that's really rough. And after King G2, then we can consider knight to F4 quite strongly. So a tough decision for Mikhail Antipov to make. What can we suggest?
Yeah, did he take it?
Yes, he did, and now he took on D5, Queen D5, Knight BD2. He tries to stabilize, but this initiative, looks really.
It looks quite strong, but maybe there's not that much of a threat.
I don't know E4, what happens if I play E4 right now after Knight BD2.
Okay, the pawn is immune, right? I guess I have to go something like Knight to D4 immediately, targeting the Rook.
Then we take on D3?
Then he takes D3?
Yes, you can. I somehow did spot it, but my idea was to go back to D1, and if you take, I guess it's forced, because then otherwise I take on H5. So take, and I can take
F4.
F4.
Yes, I have some like F4 also. Maybe there is some mating attack.
Right now or earlier?
After knight, yes. If like E4, knight D4, you said ED3, Queen D1, F4.
F4.
But now
the Rook is hanging. Okay, but it's tricky. If we take, it might be winning.
King G1, GF, and King H2. Is there a mate? Probably not. Because
who knows? At least I can play something like this and not lose everything immediately. Can I go F1? And Rook F2?
Yeah, so the queen would have to take, but then so queen takes F1, but then it's good. Then it should be good.
It should be even winning. Hitting the Rook,
yeah.
Hitting here, Rook here, hitting F7, taking this, and giving checkmate. So that's easy. All right. So maybe it's not that simple.
Probably after Black move F4, White should answer G4. That makes
after E4, he played Queen to A2.
Okay.
That's a really clever idea, because if we take, then the pawn is pinned. It covers the Rook, so the pawn cannot move at all.
So now Black, it may turn out that Black is overextended, and while the queens are exchanged, it will be very difficult to generate any serious play.
Yeah, because if we now go back, then Knight D4 wins the exchange, at least, because of the pin of the diagonal.
Yes, and also the pawn on E4 may fall. So yeah, this is out of the question. playing like this. So queen takes a2 is probably forced.
But then that play does extinguish a lot.
Yeah,
yes,
sure.
but maybe black still can defend the rook, like move the rook to, I'm not sure where, e7 or e8. Queen
They
a2, rook
can
a2, rook
take
e7 or rook e8, and then you still cannot take on e4.
Because the pawn on f2 is hanging at the end.
Yeah, take,
pawn on
and
f2 is
I
hanging,
can't
or your
take
knight on
here.
f3.
Because take, and rook to f3. At the same time, I can't... going with the rook to e7 is a little bit better, because if we go to e8, the difference is, if we take, then... Oh no, there's no difference. I wanted to go knight f6, but I just take with the knight. It's over.
Yes.
If my rook is on e8, you can take on e8, rook e8 take on f5, but then I have rook e2, I don't know, some counterplay begins. It needs to be calculated.
Okay.
But if I go to e7, then I protect everything as black.
But I can go slowly, knight to d4, probably.
I take on d4.
Take on d3, and what's the position all about? I'm not really sure. Takes on e7, knight takes, and I know, rook a7. That's
Rook d5, knight d5, knight e6 you want to play.
yeah, knight d5. That was my point, but I'm not sure if that's a lot.
Perpetual check, right? Rook
sure.
f7, rook a8, king h7, knight f8.
And everybody's happy, we go home. But of course, it's not that simple. It will not end up like this, obviously. So let's see.
Well, I'm not sure why. Obviously not. It looks like a very nice line, very logical line.
Yeah, it is logical, but a lot of things have to happen. So it's not that simple. And Ali Marante is still thinking after Queen A2. So it's not.
Yeah, but we need to believe that the players will find the best moves.
Yeah, despite it's just a rapid game, but they are very, very strong players. So there's no doubt they will fight and find everything correctly. Maybe not everything, but the most of the moves. So a really deep thought from Black. That's quite unexpected.
Yeah, he shouldn't think that much. In this time control, well, 6 minutes versus 2, it's like a big time edge. Yeah, although the position, of course, is, well, demanding, but still, I think he should just make a move. I mean, the method of elimination, because the question is, what is he considering? I mean, are there any really...
He's already taken on a2, rook a2, and he has played rook to e8. So he didn't come back to e7. He played rook e8.
Okay, rook e8.
That allows white to play knight d4. That's why I wasn't sure about it. And then after e d3, we have rook takes e8, rook e8, and now knight takes f5.
Maybe the rook to e2 is the point.
Yeah, but it's not the end of the world. I'll just go king to g2 and then knight d4 back. And the rook on e2 will be kicked back. So then there's the typical question, the pawn on d3, a strength or weakness?
Yeah, and has knight d4 been played? Yeah, it is, but he went rook to d1, apparently. Not rook e8.
Ooh,
so now he's a pawn down.
No.
Right? No, he's not. Oh, no, he's not.
He won the pawn on a6 earlier on. And now knight f3.
Okay, so if he took on e8 and took on f5, he would be still pawn up. So then maybe that was really worth
But
trying.
It's tricky. First of all, I could consider then going rook e8, knight f5. I could consider maybe going like rook f8, provoking
g4.
Yeah, I do want to provoke it, and then go knight f4 and have a permanent knight on f4. Maybe.
Not really permanent. I mean, I will move my king. I'm not sure if immediately or first some, I don't know, knight somewhere, knight e4.
Okay, but it's not the point of the discussion. He went knight e5 after rook to e1. So can white really target that pawn quickly? I guess
white wants to play knight f3.
Yeah, that's a very logical move. Attacking the defender of the pawn, and later on I want to just take the pawn after its defender being removed. We could try like knight f3, rook to e2, but it does not work because I take, he takes, I go rook e1, and after protecting the pawn, I just go knight to d4.
Rook c8. No, black will play rook c8, rook c8, rook c8. No, don't protect.
Okay. So rook c8, that's tricky. It's not that simple. Knight d5 doesn't protect the pawn. I just was blindsided. Can I take and claim some activity? Maybe. But is it enough?
Yes, you can claim some activity, but it's not enough. Maybe white has a better option. Looks like white was much better earlier. So knight f3 was a good move, I think. White can also play king g2 right now. But knight f3, I like the move which you mentioned. But then let's see what you could do better.
Take rook e2. Maybe rook to d2 right now. Although still this move rook c8 can be played. So it's not easy at all to win the pawn. Okay, so let's just wait for Michał to find his preference, find his solution.
There is an interesting idea. You can take on e2, d-take e2, and play rook d3 to have your pawn protected.
Okay, and so rook e3, rook e2 maybe, like going all around this pawn and then taking it.
But then f4?
F4, yes, f4 should be played, but maybe king g2, I will go.
Yeah, but now rook e3 is stopped.
Then rook e8 you will play. Okay, yeah. That's the point, yes.
And the move I was about to mention was f4, but Michał played it first. Just before I mentioned it, and f4 is clever. It kicks the knight out, and if we go like, I don't know even where can we go, d7 or g6 or f7. These are the only options available. And if we go, for example, to g6, then I go knight f3 and snap the pawn. So probably white will be a pawn up in that endgame. And that would be obviously great for him, but is it really the only option?
f4 looks like a very good move.
Yeah, f4 looks really promising. So we assume Michał might be about to win the game.
It's still a long way.
But if we imagine the position like this, the pawn on f5 is really bad. It requires a permanent protection, then we take on d3, we move our rook to a6 or a7, and get more and more pressure on the position.
Yeah, the good news for white is that black is not able to kind of penetrate on the second rank. Like rook e2 is not possible because knight on d4 covers too many squares, and knight on d4 is very stable. So this is really big. Knight on d4 is an octopus, right? Because it covers so many important squares. It protects e2. It also attacks f5 and covers, well, a lot of other squares.
Okay, so let me try to defend as black. So let me play knight d7.
All right, knight f3. Remove.
Now rook e3.
Rook e3, and if rook d2,
then rook c8.
That's tricky. And if takes, then rook takes c3. I see your point.
Yeah, this is very good. And
the game went differently. Knight g6, knight f1. Knight f1 is really smart.
Okay, so this is really we can see that given not so much time, the player with the white pieces, Grandmaster Antipov, thought about prophylaxis. He knew that rook e3 might be coming, and he just stopped this, even though knight f1 looks very funny. But probably it's very strong, because now after rook takes d3, white will even have knight e3 later.
Yeah, so it looks like it's getting quite tough for Ali Morandi. He might be...
But you see, but black played a terrible move, knight g6. You cannot place your knight on g6. Like, knight has no perspectives there.
Yes.
You need to move your knight somewhere else. Moreover, then, even after a move like knight f1, you should look for some counterplay, maybe with g5, and even like g5, f, g5, f4. Sacrifice everything, open lines, maybe g4, knight g3 to target that knight on f1. Then white cannot take d3. Black will get some counterplay there. Two lines are open.
But the way
Yeah,
played in the
that's-
game
that's
is terrible.
That's true. The knight on g6 is has to be just removed sooner or later. So indeed, black didn't find any way to for
Although
counterplay.
now knight f6, knight e4, there is some sort of light in the tunnel.
No, there is nothing. There is absolutely nothing because the knight is on g6 and that ruins the position.
Yeah, the pawn on s5 is gonna maybe not fall, but take a lot of time for black pieces to be protected. And after knight e4, I go.
If one piece is wrong, then the whole position is bad, right? There is such a saying.
Yeah, it is. It's not 100% true, but
yeah, of course.
True.
Like all those sayings. I mean, okay, but black tries to at least get some activity with the rooks. So yeah, the game still continues, of course, and it would require some technique to bring the point home.
Why should be? By better, I mean winning, because of course black wants to play rook a1 and give some checks. But if I take on f5 and my king goes to g2 f3, you will not have even a single check.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to go here.
King G2, move your king there to be safe. The king will go to f3.
And sooner or later, I will get some pressure here.
Yeah, that's true. That's 2 pawns. It's too much.
But knight f3 was played by Mikhail. He attacks the rook, and then the knight on
g1
f3.
also. So yes. So there will be no check on g1 coming. So rook h1, g2. No threat at all. White is 2 pawns up. White has won.
Knight h5 is tricky.
Yes, everything started with that move knight g6, which was really bad. Because look at this knight. Completely no active move possible with that.
Now there is a trick. Well, if I play b5, then check, knight f4. So
yes.
We have to watch out.
Yeah, we have to watch out for that. But apart of that, the knight is completely eliminated from the game. Whereas with some moves like knight d7 at that position or knight f7, then followed by g5, f4, maybe black could have obtained some counterplay. That was way more interesting and challenging for white.
Yeah, and rook d4 was played just to protect that pawn and not allow any sort of trick with knight x4. But rook c1, the white is obviously winning, but there are some tricks.
There is not much time. This is the problem, and you need to be fast. Because
if you need to be fast, play fast knight d6, protect everything. Move your king to g2. Keep your rook on d4, so there is no knight f4.
Yeah. So,
but now, if knight e5, rook f2, then maybe rook c3. I mean, 1 c3, rook 1 c3.
And can I go king g2?
Yeah, you should. I mean, okay, yeah.
There should be no sack. And he went to rook a to c3. That's even more curious.
Okay.
What's the point if black takes the pawn?
So did white really lose the pawn?
Yeah, he did.
But why not knight d6? Probably he didn't have that much time, and that's why he played like this.
Yeah, but knight d4 as I pre-moved, that's a very good move, protecting everything and getting.
Yeah, but it's no longer so easy. I mean, just 1 pawn up, and
absolutely easy, Piotr, because the knights are dominating. And look at this knight on g6. We already talked about the knight. So rook a2, rook a7, just go there. Oh, rook c2, I don't know why. Well, it's also good, again, because of the knight on g6. But I think rook a2, rook a7, just absolutely winning.
Or maybe
I'm
rook
always
e2,
worried,
rook e6, many ideas.
Like that there are not so many pieces, but there are those b pawns. Because if not the b pawns, I would just take on f4 and take on h3, and you wouldn't mate me with 2 knights, for example. But
maybe.
But 2 knights against some pawns, Piotr. So this is still winning for the
Yes, that's true. But yeah, the b pawns will make all the difference, because knight from d4 protects also the pawn on b5, and b6 is a weakness. So indeed, now black is completely tied down, and indeed, it's
coming to a bitter end for him, sooner or later.
The b pawn will decide the issue.
Yeah, the board is not updating that quickly, but we can see that slowly white builds a winning position. Pawn on b6 has been taken, it will be moved pretty quickly, and there's nothing black can really do. So Mikhail Antipov with another win. Rook to a1. Yeah, so it's gonna be
and rook b2, and the pawn is advancing there.
Maybe now a little bit of a prophylaxis, knight to d6, covering b7. Can it be played? b6.
Yeah, there are like many ways to win, and still, yeah, some time.
Yes. There is a funny line with this b6, knight a3, king f, knight d3 check, but then b7.
I thought he blundered the rook. I'm sorry to interrupt, but he didn't. The pawn is running.
Yeah. But this is sometimes playing with the fire. Sometimes like when you really don't need.
And it has been played.
Let me disagree, Piotr, with you. He's not playing with fire. He's playing with an extra queen.
That's true.
Yeah, but sometimes when I look at games of less experienced players, I would just tell them that don't try this at home. I mean,
all right, it's a very wise advice. Yeah, don't do it. It wasn't necessary at all.
Yeah, but also it's of course the difference. What is, for example, simple calculation? Like for the grandmaster, that's a simple calculation. For other player, that's an unnecessary calculation, and it's such a technical position, of course. You should avoid any calculation. Just win by pushing pawn.
Okay, so the round is over.
By the way, look at this knight on g6, still in the final position. How many active moves do you have with this knight?
None.
Yeah, this is terrible.
This is terrible. So knight g6 was really a very bad decision. It just ruined the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it stayed there for such a long time. Yeah, so we have a result. White wins, and the other games also finished. So Leon Livaich made a draw against Grigory Oparin, and Robi Kevlishvili won against Kirill Shevchenko. He played the black pieces and he won the game.
Okay, in the women's section,
is leading 2.5 points, right? And then there is Antipov and Shevchenko with 2 points out of 3.
And let's jump to the women's section. Anna Sargsyan defeated Yulia Antolak. I think they both had 2 out of 2, so that's a big result for Anna. Yulia Osmak defeated Isha Sharma, and Zhao Shengjin defeated Olga Badelka. And the round 4 has started in the women's section, so I guess we can jump back straightly to it. Let's stay maybe with the game between Anna Sargsyan and Yulia Osmak. c4, e6, c4. We've got the Queen's Gambit declined with the move e6.
Oh, this funny line a6. I saw that someone also said that h6 is not that terrible, and I've checked that line, and Black's position is so solid that he can actually play such moves, even though, yeah, they look so funny, but it's possible.
Yeah, so that's the regular setup for both sides. The setup of black is like this, then pawn c6 and queen to b8. Or to c7.
It looks very, very passive, but even Carlsen played like this, and he was just, beating some grandmasters in the end games. But here, this is the very modern approach, like AlphaZero likes to allow.
Okay, so White decided to double her pawns and break the kingside structure, but is it really worth? Let's see. Castles, king h1, trying to exploit this file.
I mean, I'm sure White watched some AlphaZero games, because this is, very, very modern way of playing. That White is not going for any minority attack like people used to do back in the days. They're just, playing something strange in the Carlsbad structure.
Yeah, and rook to g8, and I would say that White's position is a little bit better and easier to play. What's even more important. we can set up like this on the G file, and then maybe create some pressure on G7, maybe on F6, and maybe try to bring the knight round to G3, then to F5.
No, but the knight, knight G3 we can wait, but yeah, eventually we can, if we trade those knights, then the knight on F6 is not so stable. So all in all, I think the problem with the black's position is that he is completely not so flexible, I would say. And this is the big problem, that it's hard for her to reroute the pieces somehow.
Yeah, G6. I don't really like that decision because it invites some sacrifice. Maybe not now, but anytime soon. Like, may I go knight G3 right now, and if black takes, then I take with the rook. And if you go,
but bishop bishop takes F6 check intermediate move. No, this is with check. Sorry.
I spotted it.
Okay, so maybe we could prepare it somehow also.
Maybe, but I'm just trying to get some point, because if you like do this sort of protection, then I go sacrifice, take, and I get some lines open.
But yes, bishop takes G6. Take on G6. I would do it. Fg6, rook G6. What will you play?
Maybe knight to H7, but it's not.
No, because H6 is hanging. I thought maybe Queen H7 was the idea of it, pinning the Queen on C2, but I will play Queen F5 then. So
yeah, and immediately Bishop takes G6 played. Okay. Okay.
A good decision. I feel I would do the same. And
takes, rook takes.
Double. Queen F5 is coming now. So there is a double attack. Knight on F6, pawn on H6. Are hanging, white king is completely safe, and queen f5 is coming.
Yeah.
So how does
the knights are stepping on each other's toes, and this construction is just falling apart.
And on queen h7, queen f5, right?
As expected, and queen f5. That's what I wanted.
Okay. Now f6 is hanging, so I guess I have to protect, but how? Is there a satisfactory reply?
Well, bishop e7, but you take on f6 just twice, and you win.
Takes, knight takes, rook takes.
Well, maybe you don't win. Maybe that's the best option.
No, but the question is that how many pawns do we have for
like two,
for the exchange? And the lines are closed, but still, it's not easy for us to make a passed pawn. I mean, or the pair of passed pawns. So I'm not sure if it's so easy.
So that's the current position, bishop to e7, and we have to find out whether there is some sort of possibility to
it looks great, but somehow not sure how to break, how to just finish the game. This is the big problem, because that endgame 2 pawns for the exchange is fine, especially that the rook is still, doesn't have any open files, but I'm not that sure. I mean, we need like 2 passed pawns or something, or more pawns in the center, then I would be more sure about this.
Yeah,
in this case,
we have to somehow find a way. Something has been played, I assume, but I don't know.
Yeah, but probably there are not many choices here. I mean,
it's not this move.
Okay. I don't see any other option. You need to take on f6, and indeed that endgame is not that clear with a knight against knight and 2 pawns against a rook.
Yeah, especially that we have doubled pawns. Then the pawns are less mobile. Yeah. So this is less mobile. If we could just push the pawns forward, that would be different. But the pawns are not going that fast. Yeah, f3, e4 it's not that easy to play, because the pawn on e3 is weak. And now it's up to black if he is able to open the files. If
like
he can
c5,
play...
b6, c5, I guess.
Yes.
Black should win this. That's my gut feeling.
Ooh, yeah,
something has been played. It's rook takes g8, rook takes g8, and rook takes g8. All right, what is this? If knight takes, obviously we take the knight. Option. If queen takes, then what? What's the point?
Then, so white's play looked so beautiful,
Knight
so
G3 is the
creative.
idea. No, Knight G3 is the idea, I think.
But then knight takes G3 check.
Yes,
And
take
then
with the pawn.
it's just protect F6 in any way, like King G7 at least.
But maybe I can do some pushing.
Yeah, but I can hardly believe this. I will just go Queen F7, Knight E4. No, piece is a piece.
That's the point. Knight G1. Okay, that's...
Yeah, but I can hardly believe this.
But
Queen G7.
Queen G7?
I don't know.
Okay, I continue.
But then, okay, maybe then Queen C8. But okay, Knight E4, I thought. This is what I thought. Knight E4.
And can I take? Not really, because I can take here.
I will just mate. Okay, and somehow you protected everything.
F2 is protected by the bishop, and if you take, the queen just replaces the bishop, and it's all right.
Right. Okay, so I cannot just lose a piece in one. Okay, so so the idea of Knight E4 is not all that simple. So maybe Queen E8. Although this looks very artificial, but I just want to play Knight E4. I really want to make this move.
Queen H7 has been played.
Okay, that's also fine. But then Queen C8, Queen takes B7. Somehow I didn't want to calculate sacrificing any pawns.
Yeah,
you know,
it can be weird just to give that many pawns away, because then the material situation would be more or less equal, like 3 pawns for the piece and maybe even 4 or 5. Who knows what could happen? So.
Yeah, and the B7 pawn is very important, because then C6 and A6 are getting severely weakened. But Knight G8, yeah, this is a good move, because now Queen B7, Bishop takes H4, and if we take first on E7 and Queen takes E7, covers everything.
Yeah, Queen is covering B7, targeting some E4, something like this. So, yeah.
Guys, let's try to play with the king to G7 instead of Queen H7.
But Queen H7, is that the move in the game? Queen H7 or not yet?
That's the current position.
Oh, okay. I thought to play King G7 first to avoid the check on C8. So then if Knight F3, maybe I will have Queen H7 and Queen C8 is check.
But if the pawn on B7 is defended anyway, you don't need to start with King G7, right? So this is pretty fine for black, I guess. Pretty efficient way to try to exchange pieces, and that's it.
Okay, bishop takes, queen takes, and king h2. But right now, I get the feeling.
This must be winning. No, this must be winning. I mean, we have a piece for 2 pawns, and we just need to activate the pieces.
Maybe some tricks, like bringing the knight all the way to e5 and then getting something. Maybe that's.
Yes. Yeah. So we need to put the knight to e4 first. That's
like this, right?
Yes.
Okay, knight f6, knight f3. Knight d4, knight e5 anyway. Not.
Yeah. Okay. Knight e5 is possible, but then no, queen h4 still knight g6.
Yeah.
It's very unfortunate, but no, I just don't believe. Like there must be some.
Knight g7 on the board.
Okay. Also interesting.
That's probably good as well. Good enough. Knight f3. Okay, that's very logical.
But where this knight goes from g7? Does it go to where?
Yes. I will tell you it's not that simple yet, because the knight on e5 is very strong, and the king on h8 is vulnerable to checks. It's very difficult to find a good square. So you see your knight on g8 doesn't have any move.
Yeah, the knight.
And if you try to create some counterplay, white king is safer, and it takes some time, and then white will be faster with this counterattack. King h7, very interesting idea. So black wants to play knight f6. Okay, and develop the other knight, yes, because we need all the pieces.
Yeah, the knight is the best defender of the king. So the knight on g7 looked funny, but if it covers important squares and the other joins to e4, then black will take over finally.
Yes, look, it's a very look at the difference between this position and the one which you suggested. In your situation, king was on h8, knight on g8. Here there will be king on h7, knight on g7, which of course is better for black. And the same knight will be on e4, the other knight.
Yes, the other knight goes to e4. So yeah, that's a very educational position, because that's clear for us that we need the knight to e4. But then the question is which knight is better on e4.
So we do compare those two positions. This one with that current in the game. Alright, so maybe black will stabilize after knight e4, then queen can come to h4, and it should not be that easy to hold even for white.
Yeah.
No, of course we are talking only about holding. White is much worse.
f5, alright. What is this?
Yeah, just at least bringing, well...
No, f5 is a bad move. You know what was the best move? a3 maybe, to protect the b4 square. You need also some prophylactics.
Maybe.
Because
Yeah,
if you want to play f3 at one moment to attack the knight on e4, which probably will be there, then the queen will play queen b4 and will start giving you checks there. And you need a3 to be played. Very useful move. Your position is worse anyway as white, but at least you protect something.
Yeah, and by the way, Julia Antolak won her game against Zhao Shengjin.
Oh,
so, yeah, very good result.
She's on 3 out of 4, so she's... in the Blitz finals, she she finished last, I believe, but now she's fighting for the top spots. So that's a really good news for her. But in this game, I guess it's about a little bit in between leaders. I'm not sure, but...
By the way, both Julias here, Julia Osmak and Julian Tolak, are from the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, the organizer of the event, and for sure they want to also succeed. I'm really proud of them. Glad to see they are playing so well today.
So maybe two medals for University Rio Grande today.
Well, hopefully, that would be my dream scenario, but of course it's difficult. It's the final, and the opponents are super strong.
Is there? We have still Queen D6 check, but this Knight G6, Queen H8. Well,
Queen 8.
Yeah, or Queen 8, but Queen E8, but then Queen takes B7. We cannot take on F5.
But I can play like this and take this way.
Yeah, or we can take on
Hitting the queen, hitting the pawn, and then just getting everything.
I'm always worried, but sometimes we need to calculate.
Queen takes B7. Say it again. Queen takes B7. What will you play?
Knight D6, Antoni said. But knight takes F2 also possible. Knight D6, knight takes F5. Knight F2 also fine, probably.
Probably, but I'm not that sure.
Yeah, it's always getting a bit messy. Like now maybe knight goes back to E5, then F6. No, but knight E5, knight E4. No, it should be winning for black, but for the moment it's a bit tricky.
Yeah, and Anna Sargsyan a little bit more up on time, but it's getting closer and closer. So
the big point is that F6 doesn't work. F6, Queen takes G6. This is very important. And this knight on G6, which is active, somehow doesn't allow white to push. And if white cannot push, then what else to do? I mean, he cannot improve. I don't know anything else here. So knight E5 probably.
Yes. I was thinking for a moment about playing F6 instead of knight E5 right now, and Queen G6 F7 maybe. Yes, but very interesting attempt just to promote, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, it cannot work.
Queen F6, Queen F5.
Yeah, simple chess. But maybe the idea of knight F4 bringing the knight to E6 and then hitting G7, maybe that's bring a little bit, but it's not that much either. So
but yeah, the knights are jumping, then it's always a bit tricky.
Yeah.
But knight F4, Queen takes E3, I think, is the problem.
That's very, very concrete. And then, Queen takes H3 might be very important resource.
And then,
so Queen G4
Queen G4.
Queen G4 check.
Yeah.
Queen G4
Queen G4 is also good enough. If we take the knight, then take here. And it's all right, but we've got something on the board. It's knight d5, knight d5, knight d4, and knight to g4, preparing f6. That's the line we were mentioning at the very beginning, I guess. So now we
Yeah,
need...
White has to create some threats with every move. Otherwise, this is just game over. So she has to do it.
Yes, and Queen f8, stopping f6, Queen takes c6, taking another pawn, and by the way, preparing to take on h6. But I guess I can sacrifice this pawn, or
there
even
is some Queen
not.
b8 check, by the way. So guys, be careful with that check.
Yeah. That's...
Yeah, but Queen b8 is not mating, and there are not that many pawns on the board. And when defending,
Or is
when
it?
piece down, it's. No, but why knight e5? Why knight e5? No, after check, I just go with the king to, I don't know, somewhere.
Here you get this.
To h1 maybe.
Piotr, all the time mentioning that not enough pawns, but you remember White still has some pawns. So
Yes,
if at least one of them is behind that Troitsky zone, then Black should be fine. Black should know how to...
Queen b8, king h1, knight g3, king g1. It's getting messy. Because queen to f7 is also a threat.
But also when you... c7 now? Oh, yes, queen c7?
Yeah, they repeated moves and she went queen to c7.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think when you have knights, you really like pawns to have some outposts and so on. Because without pawns, those knights are, well,
but not right now. I deliver you a checkmate. What's your defense?
Yeah, of course. Checkmate is more important than anything.
Knight f2 might be the defense, you know?
Yeah,
knight f2 because...
This is played now. Yes, knight f2.
Okay. Knight f queen c1. Check, king escapes.
There will be...
No, take another piece. Hang on. Take, knight f6.
Yeah. This is game over.
And
this is game over.
So a very important win for Yulia Osmak, and the other result is Olga Badelka winning her game against Isha Sharma. All right, let's jump maybe to the open section. So in the penultimate round, Ali Marandi drew his game against Robbie Kevlishvili. That was relatively quick.
Yeah, rather simple chess.
Okay, so let's jump to the Grigory Oparin versus Kirill Shevchenko. What's the position on the board? Pawn up for the Russian Grandmaster playing with white pieces. But
it's
exchange. It's the pawn for exchange. I miscalculated the pieces. So white has a bishop and a pawn, but black has a rook.
But quite an important pawn, because this allows white's knight to be very dominant in the position. It's a central pawn. This is also very important.
Yes. So.
So guys, looks like black is completely winning in that position. Like play knight c3 and he will just win it.
Maybe.
No, because if we manage to trade the dominant knight, indeed, we cannot do that much. That's the issue. All
endgames will be easily winning right now, and you cannot avoid the trade because there is a rook e1 check as well. The threat.
Yeah, rook to e1 and then
rook d2. If you move the knight from d5.
Yeah. If we go like this, then check, takes, and we even snap the bishop away. But he played knight to c7, maybe preparing some other way around.
The idea is the same, right?
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Just to trade. Yeah, indeed. If black manages just to trade, this is easy. So
he wants to play. He played knight c7 because then he can decide in which moment he wants to take on d5. If knight c3 immediately, maybe he was afraid white king would attack the knight, forcing him to take on d5. And what he wants to do, he wants to take on d5, but be on time to bring the king from g7 to d6 to stop the passed pawn. And then he will have two active rooks.
Yeah, so maybe
if you take on d5 immediately, then after ed5, you are not on time to bring your king. After king f8, d6 will happen, and that will open the bishop and so on. In the other position.
Right now it should be...
Yeah.
Well, I can even avoid the trade, like go this way, maybe. Just trying to take the pawn.
Yeah, it's possible, but then maybe we could even start maybe with rook b1.
Then rook b2 will happen. Black should trade pieces. Generally, the strategic idea of black is to trade the pieces and simplify the position.
But we should especially trade the rooks somehow, right? Because we have 2 rooks, white has 1 rook, so as far as I know, trading pair of rooks would be very, very good.
Yes, Piotr, exactly. But trading everything is good. The knights and the rooks, generally simplifying the position. That was a beautiful game of, very instructive game of Vladimir Kramnik against Veselin Topalov in Catalan. That's exactly what happened. Topalov sacrificed an exchange for a pawn, thinking he would have a very good compensation, but by steadily trading pieces, Kramnik managed to just go to some endgame, which he won. And that's what we expect to happen here.
Okay, bishop to h3. Does white really want to take on e6?
No, he doesn't, but probably he just wants to keep some pressure there.
Okay, that's knight to c5.
But I don't think bishop h3 was good, because yes, e4 now is weakened. Rook e1 is the threat, like instant threat. So that's probably, well, white's position probably just collapses at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
Usually people play bishop to f3 just to consolidate, bring this bishop a bit closer so it's not hanging. Moreover, you can bring your bishop to d1 if you need to control c2 square or protect your b3 pawn. That's
yeah.
But
and maybe g4 h4, just trying to push those pawns, but the way it was played now, it's just very bad. Knight takes b3 could be played, and it is played. So now it's easy.
Yeah, it should be apparently easy, because the rook doesn't really want to take on b3, because then we take on d5, or we can maybe get some control, like maybe knight d6 immediately. How about this?
No, we can just win in like hundreds of ways here.
Yeah,
I guess.
That's true. Rook e1, maybe rook to e4. Next move, if allowed, of course. Because
or rook a1 or rook h1. I mean, there are so many weaknesses. We could just
and the time is in so much favor of black that it should not.
I guess white wants to resign, or maybe not. I guess he didn't.
Not yet.
Yeah, but he's about to resign. I'm pretty much sure.
Yeah, it's unavoidable. Black takes
just
another pawn. Rook a2, rook h2, everything collapses. So
bishop h3 was such an unsuccessful move. Bishop should have gone to f3, and then it wouldn't be that easy for black to win.
That's the commitment White did. He admits his mistake and goes back to g2 after several moves, but now his position is just lost. So it's too late, just a lot too late. Alright, so I guess this game will gonna finish in a result we expect. Let's jump to the other game between Mikhail Antipov and Leon Livaic. And we've got, guess what, another endgame. But this time it's a little bit more complex, I would say, because of the tactical possibilities. For example, the bishop could have been taken, but it would result in a draw. Just a perpetual check. But the way it went, we've got some maneuvers. And can White really improve on this position? That's the big question I have. Because if not, then Black takes on e3 and gets his perpetual.
Yeah, it would be good to trade the bishops, but to keep the pawn on f2. Then maybe there will be no perpetual, and then just to push the a pawn. But probably White is not in time just to coordinate, to consolidate. So I think it might be a draw.
Well, if you want to do it, then go with the queen to b8 and play queen b3. I'm gonna help you with your plan.
Yeah,
okay.
That's also the idea I had, but the way I see the game proceeds is somehow discouraging me from this idea, because somehow White went for this queen infiltration.
Queen e6 is the move right now.
All right, queen e6. And if they take, then the e-pawn
Then bishop f8 is forced, and then bishop g5, and it's all over.
Yeah.
So
you can't really take, but if you take on e3, I take on f5, pawn takes, I take, and
a pawn decides the issue.
Yeah, king is not in the square. So.
Even if it was, then I guess there
could be some way.
It won by playing e4, fe4, and somehow g4, creating the second pass pawn at the right moment.
That's right.
Okay, so queen e6, I guess we have on the board, but no other move from Leon. But is there any other move he can make?
Queen f3, is that a move or not?
That's tricky.
It's not. I mean, there are no other, I guess.
Because if you go all the way to f8, then I take, and take on d6, take on e5, take on c5.
But no, bishop h6, you take on f2.
Oh,
or at least you have to calculate this.
Yeah, of course. I forgot about the main idea of...
just keeping the queen looking at the pawn on f2.
Yeah.
This is the key. So here, queen f3, and what's going on? Because I have no idea.
Queen takes d6. All right, that's the point. If you take here,
queen a5
double
check.
attack, check, and I take on a3, and it's all decided. So I guess no hope for Leon.
Yeah, very unfortunate.
Yes, was a strong move. And queen f8, probably White wanted to play king g2, because what else?
Maybe.
I don't see a different move.
Yeah, but it feels like it was a better way to trying to defend, but still probably
unless you take everything. Maybe you can take on g6 after queen f8, queen g6, bishop e3, queen h5, king move somewhere, take on e3.
No, but there is bishop h6, right?
And I have...
Oh, bishop h6. Oh, yeah.
So that's not that easy. But the game has concluded. Mikhail Antipov won as expected. And in the other game, Kirill Shevchenko also won. So I guess we're gonna do a short break, and we will be back pretty soon. So stay tuned. So we're back after the break, and let's jump straight to the games, because in the women's section we have the final round of play. The leader, Julia Osmak, is facing the player in the third place, who is Julia Antolak. So let's see how the opening went. D4, knight f6, bishop f4, b6, e4. That's some standard London system, and playing with white, Julia is satisfied with the draw because she has a 1 point advantage, and a draw would make her a champion. What happened here? E5? What is this?
E5 is probably an impatient move. I'm not saying it's bad, but I feel like it's very impatient.
Normally, rook e8 is being played, and then
or some rook c8, queen c7, queen b8, queen
rook
a8.
c8, then you drop the pawn.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to bring my queen to a8.
Yeah,
but
because
indeed,
rook c8 was played right now, and maybe rook e8 was the better move than to go e5, because after rook c8. After then, queen e2 happens, and the pawn is being targeted quite quickly. Let's jump to the current position. The pawn on b6 is in trouble. Knight to d6 can come, hitting b7, hitting e8. So
white is winning. Yes, white is winning now.
Yeah. And it's
By the way, let me mention that let me not miss the moment of a happy coach. Both of them, both Julias, are students of the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley. So one of them probably will become the world champion. That's of course amazing achievement for them, but also for our university. I'm sure my leadership, which supports chess very much. Chess is extremely popular in Brownsville. Literally, before the pandemics, every second week we had a scholastic tournament for about 600, even up to 1,000 scholastic students. So everybody will be very proud of one of the Julias, maybe about both of them. Well, actually, we will be about both of them because they are already in the top 6 in the world, which is amazing achievement. But one of them may become the world champion.
In fact, both of them will finish on the top 3 because Julia Antolak is being placed on the spot number 3, and she has 2 point advantage above the number 4. So we can definitely congratulate her on the medal, but maybe she can do more in this game.
Yeah, in this game her opening was just didn't go too well, to put it mildly, because that was very simple opening and she just rushed. It was just impatient to sacrifice the pawn, which turned out to be a loss of pawn. But now she has at least some activity. So maybe, if the rook comes to the second rank, maybe it's not that easy for white to coordinate. But overall, the position, black's position is pretty bad here.
Yeah. And the game concluded in a draw. Because the draw was sufficient for white to win to secure the first place, to win the championship.
Yeah, so that's also logical because then there is no point in taking risk if it's
and the other game finished pretty soon between Olga Badalka and Anna Sargsyan. So both Julias finished on the first and second place. So big congratulations to them.
It's not made yet, but it's very picturesque. It would be made at some point.
Yeah, it has to be.
I'm sure.
Like the king on e4,
exactly.
So terrible, and
but
those pieces
it must be.
Yep.
Yeah, so very picturesque, very nice game, and let's see the game between Zhao Shengxin and Isha Sharma.
So that's the last game for the women's tournament. We should also mention that. And what's the current position? Let's have a look. First of all, we need to count the pawns. I guess it's pawn up for black.
Equal. No, it is pawn up. Yeah, 6 versus 5. Yeah, this is the first thing we do when evaluating the position. We just need to make sure what's the material. Yeah, but the pawn on c5 indeed is quite weak. Still, pawn is a pawn, and black has some nice pawns, f5, e5. Also, the bishop on b7 is hanging, so there's a lot of things happening here.
Yeah, bishop c6.
Yeah, but now c6, it's a nice touch because knight takes c6, b takes c6, and the queen actually attacks the rook on b8, not the rook on b8 attacks the queen. This is quite funny.
Yeah, but I can move my queen back, maybe.
Queen e8, and queen e8 is the double attack. We are attacking c6, and we are already attacking the queen.
Yeah, protecting, attacking, everything. So queen to a4, I guess, should be played, but after takes maybe rook to b6, taking this pawn.
Yeah, but then I have at least queen takes a7.
But rook
also some moves like rook d8, right?
All right. So that may be interesting, but let's look at the time. The player, the Zhao with white, has only 1 minute 30 seconds. And her opponent has over 8 minutes, so that's tremendous advantage for this time control.
Yeah, so it's amazing that Isha played so fast in that game. I don't know, maybe she knew some theory or something.
Yeah, let's take a look. But it was a standard line in the King's Indian, the so-called bayonet attack with b4.
Okay, so that's normal when you know like 20 moves of theory. So I guess it was still theory.
I guess it's still all known, but now...
Okay, maybe.
And queen c4 was played, not queen to a4. But after queen takes c6... Pawn up for black, or even 2 pawns up, I would say. And taking on d6 is very risky, because after c takes d6 the pawns are more compact and can move easily, so that's not a case, definitely. I guess black is about to win. Maybe not on position already, but the time should be the biggest issue. Bishop to e3 on the board, hitting c5, and what's the move right now? At least I can, of course, sacrifice that pawn, because I have 2. But maybe I can do more.
Yeah, sacrificing and then exchanging some pieces. It sounds nice, but...
I would go for rook d8. That's a tricky move. Because if you take with the bishop, then I take.
And you want to pin me at the end, right?
You're already pinned, but you lose a bishop.
Yes.
But you can... I considered also taking with the queen on c5, but I felt like this endgame should be at least good, because it's a pawn.
Yeah, it's extra pawn.
Yeah.
But the pawn on a7 is hanging, but yeah, a6, white is pretty slow, I guess. Knight c3, but still. Okay, some chances, but...
E3 to attack f5 and then try to bring knight to d5.
Yeah. That's why Isha played rook takes d1 and rook to b4. And now taking on c5 is not recommended because of the double attack. And there's no way to protect both pieces at the same time. On b4 and d4, those squares are impossible to reach, and the squares on a4 and e4 are also unavailable. So queen f7 has been played, creating some counter chances. Rook d7, maybe bringing everything to g7.
Yeah, now rook d8 and rook d7 are really big time threats. So
rook
d4, I was thinking about this move in some other variation. So this is an exchange sacrifice, but then the pawns are rolling. Yeah, and this looks really good.
But knight will go to d5. I'm not sure about it. The pawns are super strong, but knight d5 and what? I take knight d5?
Yeah, queen g8 is a big threat now. Oh, this is a knight e7.
So maybe that was missed by Isha. Let's see.
Yeah, if
bishop
we could-
takes, pawn takes, knight d5. It's all on the board.
If we could trade, but then of course our pawns are very weak, so this is the problem. Because normally those pawns would be
Knight
extremely...
h6. All right. All right. Hang on. What's going on?
Yeah, because now how to defend the knight on
Knight
d5?
d7. Yeah, that's the move I was about to say. But can I go like queen to a4?
Queen d7 maybe. Queen d7, knight g6 check. Oh.
Queen
what-
b3.
what a
Okay,
trap.
that's the game. Queen a4, queen b3. It's gonna be tense.
Mhm.
Maybe this sacrifice was a bit over optimistic. I would
But
say.
on the other hand, the white had big threats of rook d8, rook d7, so it wasn't clear how to stop them.
Yeah.
So maybe it was necessary. But this endgame, yeah, it's a big problem. Like, if we could exchange A for B pawn or something, maybe that would be a different story. But now, if white's rook enters, well, the rook will just capture too many pawns.
Okay,
That's
e4, knight
all.
c6. Now d3 is obviously forced, and white
Yeah,
sums
now
the pawn
what-
on a7.
Yeah, now one pawn goes, and this is not looking so good anymore.
Knight
I mean,
g4.
of course, it's
Okay, it's at least some chances, but knight b5 right now.
but knight c6. No, knight
No,
b5,
knight
then,
c6, okay.
then c6, and I go bishop d4.
And if go
Maybe
and bishop knight goes, then
very not
knight
necessary, I
b5 was
guess.
played. Okay. Maybe-
Although it's still not clear because knight from d6 attacks f5.
bishop e5.
Yeah,
But then black will have two passed pawns. No. That white cannot allow this. Knight d6, bishop d4, as Antoni mentioned. That looks super dangerous for white.
But the thing that happened in the game is a little bit concerning me. Because I'm not
Bishop
sure how to evaluate that at all.
Yeah, because white's rook is not is not used to the full potential. I mean, the rook is very passive. This is very important when playing against the rook.
Knight
If the
a3 is a
rook
good
is
move.
active, then that would be game over. But it's passive, so that gives a lot of hopes. But then, okay, black needs to also bring the king to generate some play because
So
sooner
do
or later,
white.
white, yeah.
It's
Yeah, but it's harder to bring the king with white. I mean, even if it goes to d2, then it's still not that active. And if black's king is on e6 or something, that would change a lot. But now maybe white wants to just break those pawns, like f3, g4, just trying
maybe
to play
that's
like
the case.
this.
So it
It
would
will be
be
difficult. Rook e1, I will play bishop c3 always.
g4
Yeah, but g4
immediately.
first.
Okay.
Okay, f4.
f4 and rook e1.
But then maybe e3, e3.
Knight c2 somehow. I
Pawn
will
takes.
think,
I can even.
f3.
No, maybe I
Yes,
cannot.
okay.
I can
Yes, yes.
take. Knight
No,
takes
you
d2.
can because yes, you can. Rook e2, bishop e3, of course, works. So
G4 was played, f4 and then h4, but somehow e3 and
No. Black is now again very, very good.
winning maybe even.
Quite in trouble. Maybe winning, yes. That's what I was afraid to say, but maybe that's true. Bishop c3 now, right? Or knight c2 and just promote.
Yeah, the pawn promotes. It's
c3 I liked more. Bishop c3 I liked more because then the knight would still protect my pawn on d3, which I don't want to lose.
but maybe she was
And
worried
only
about
after
king
king
f2.
f2.
Oh,
But then knight c2.
okay,
Bishop
okay,
c3, king f2, knight c2.
that's also winning, and I guess the time was the biggest issue for white in this game. Because if not for time, then she maybe could have found some better ways to defend. Although this position is not that simple because of
No,
little number of pawns left on the board.
yes, yeah, but there are still some pawns. But maybe we will be mating with the knight and the bishop. That would be awesome.
No.
At the end, no, that's the end game I like because this is what I know very well.
Okay,
But there are
so
some end games I don't
deliver that checkmate.
Yeah, I would always be happy to play that like this, even if I have just some seconds with just an increment. I would do it.
Yes, when I was making my GM norm in a super tournament in Polanica, I had to give a checkmate with a bishop and a knight. If I knew how to do it, I would get a norm. Well, I knew, fortunately, how to do it. So I got my norm.
Yes.
That was 1998, I think, or around that time.
But the thing is, I'm not sure if we're even gonna get to this position. Look, this pawn is really vulnerable. Can it be somehow taken?
Black just needs to provoke h6 or something. I mean, just to attack some of these pawns or attack the pawn on b3 somehow. These are the keys.
The king comes a6 and all the way around.
No, but you see knight a5 or knight d4. I want to attack the b3. So if I take the b3, then okay. But then king here, then it's messy. But still, bishop e5, I guess.
Knight d4 was played. But knight d4 attacking the bishop, attacking the pawn.
Yeah, but then bishop d4, right? And knight d4 is coming.
Yeah, that's the better version.
Like a pre-move, right?
Like
the question is if white can really
h6 played,
like force the issues, because now king f7, then maybe knight d6. I mean, that's the hope.
King to the corner, all right.
Yeah, so this looks, the king is very bad, but
it looks ugly.
Otherwise,
because g6 can be played, and maybe
knight d6.
Maybe
right,
king e6 was played.
So is white trying to mate black or what? That would be really hilarious if that could happen. But
it's not impossible.
No, but it's very difficult, because if king goes to f7, where do you need your knight to give mate? To g6. But then if you start with g6, then hg, and king has square on h7. So king f7, there is no mate. So actually, I think after knight b3, white should play g6, or unless, in fact, knight f6. Oh, maybe this is...
It's tricky.
Okay.
I imagine some line where white wins even.
Yeah. But white could force the
Oh no!
I guess she wants to hg knight takes c5. So we will have the mating with the knight and the bishop, right?
But I'm wondering whether knight f6 is good.
Yeah. Very interesting. Knight f6 you want to take, right?
Yeah. Like it's messy, and that's what I want.
Yes, it's messy, of course. Yeah, of course. And now it's of course completely winning, but yeah. Just need to bring the point home. So let's see what is Isha's technique here. First she
needs to take the pawn away.
Yeah, this will be very easy. Just bring the knight closer, and that's it. Okay, so white even abandons the pawn, doesn't even try to defend this, because there is no use. So
and the king is trapped. Look at this.
Yeah, okay.
Like bishop does take a lot of squares away, and combining with that position of a knight, it's not possible to get anywhere.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. I'm curious how is she going to bring the point home.
All right, king to f5, and where does the king wants to be in the corner of the opposite color of the bishop.
No, I mean, I'm always very happy once the king is already in any corner. I mean, if it's in the light corner, then it's super easy to push it to the other one. It's harder when the king just goes around and it's just messy. But yeah.
Yeah, I do agree about that, but
because about the defensive technique, like try to just to randomly run with the king, and yeah, then your opponent needs to think at least. But if you go already into the other corner, then it's too mechanical. If of course your opponent knows how to win, but if he does, then it's, as I said, too automatic.
That's certainly true. And now the king is being pushed away. But it still has that square on g4, so maybe...
Yeah, it's still a bit not so clean. I mean, black should make more progress, I guess, given how many moves already were made. So what was the last move when the pawn was taken? It was 61. So 50 moves rule.
61st move.
So already more than 10 moves has been made. So quite a lot. Not so sure if black made that much of a progress. Like,
well,
go bishop g5. No, but if bishop g5, then king g4, then bishop f4, and already king has to move, to the back rank. So that's important, I think.
King e3 was played.
No, this I don't like, because, well, you're not pushing still, of course, easily winning, but that takes too much moves.
Yeah,
too many moves.
Because if we make it to such situation where we reach 50 moves without any pawns being pushed or anything being taken, then according to the rules of chess, it's claimed a draw. So that's the limit black has.
And black lost a lot of time here, really a lot of time.
By time you mean valuable moves,
yes,
right? Not
yes,
the time on the clock.
Yes, indeed. In chess, saying time is not always clear what we mean, but because the white's king is still able to just run around. You can see king f6. So I'm really worried that black does not know how to win this. By the way, the game continues. It
And white steadily improves the position.
Yes.
Yeah, the king is running around. It's not easy to catch him if you're nervous.
So already 20 moves made. 20 moves. Okay, my guess is that it will be a draw. So what are your guesses?
Yeah, looks like a draw. It's already not,
Yeah, I guess we can all agree that if black does not find something immediate, then it's gonna be claimed a draw.
Of course, it's still possible to win with this bishop and the knight within the 30 moves, but it doesn't seem like black knows a good technique how to win it.
Yeah, although maybe she was trying to really keep the king closer to the dark squared corner, maybe, but still should be possible to mate within, I don't know, like 15 moves or something. But it's getting trickier. I mean, now when I wouldn't be that sure if I can mate, like if I don't have 50 moves but only like 25, then it's getting tricky. That then I'm not sure if I can make all the best moves. Within the 50 moves, I'm sure that I will always be able, but 25, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be really difficult, and it's gonna be a heartbreaker for black.
Yeah, already like move like bishop h4 I don't like, because this does nothing.
Yeah, the bishop can be attacked, and that's another tempo lost.
Yeah, another move, so very valuable move. Here every move counts. You cannot just because already we can see that the king is cut on this, there's this diagonal, yes, h4 and d8, so it's already quite close to mate. I guess the engine would say it's a mate in 10 or maybe, something like this. So 25 moves should be enough, but if the pieces are not so coordinated, then...
But that's the point. King can escape via f7, e8, d7. And that's
so because the knight is bad on d4, maybe it's better on c5. But
definitely.
one way or the other. But now, no. So it was better to go knight e6, c5 or something. But
like this, because if we go this way, then we do cover everything. Look at this.
Yes.
Cover those squares.
This is very important. Just to keep the king, and then push the king back, and the mate should be quite soon. But now the king can escape, and if now the king goes to e6 and so on, then I'm not no longer sure if it's mate. But the king went wrong direction. Now there should be.
But look, now with king e8, then king e6.
Oh, yes.
That's
now
a good technique.
That was the idea.
So maybe black can win. It's very close now. Yes, can.
How many moves left do we have? Over 20.
Yeah,
like
okay, over 20.
23.
So that should be more than enough, given the fact that the king is already in the corner. No, that should be easily winning now, but still, just a few
King
more
g5,
moves.
king g7, bishop f6, and it's okay.
Yes, the king is getting pushed back.
Because king cannot enter those squares and or in fact those.
Yes, so this is made in like, I don't know, 5 moves or less.
So we were wrong in our predictions. We didn't believe
probably.
in Sharma chances.
Probably. Yeah, because now you just push, just reroute the knight to attack the g8 square. Yeah, now king h8, king g6. And
that's mate in 3, I guess.
That's mate. Yeah, because then knight f6, bishop g7. So I really did not believe she can do it. I'm sure she has studied this, but probably,
given the time, a lot of things can go wrong. So kudos to her.
Maybe she studied and found some improvements on how to deliver the checkmate faster than the traditional way.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
she moves like remaining.
Let's bring up the standings of because the tournament has already finished. I don't know if you can see them properly. I will.
So Yulia Osmak is the world champion, world university champion, world university rapid champion.
So congratulations to her. Yulia Antolak is the runner-up. Also, big congratulations. And the third place, Anna Sargsyan. So she scored 2 medals, gold in Blitz and bronze in rapid. All right, let's jump to the open section because we are almost done. Leon Levic.
Yeah, there is still one.
Defeated Ali Marandi, and Robbie Kevlishvili made a draw against Grigory Oparin. So the last game is Kirill Shevchenko versus Mikhail Antipov, and those players were in the top 2 spots with 3 points. So it's the battle for the championship.
Yeah, so White has like 4 pawns more than black. It should be easily winning, but just a few more moves.
Yeah, h7, and it's over. So
it's over. Okay.
I'm not sure if it's. Let's bring up the standings. If it's updated already. Yes. So we have also finished the open section. So Kirill Shevchenko, 4 points, congratulations for the win. And Grigory Oparin, the runner-up, 3 points, and Mikhail Antipov, the third place, also with 3 points. So congratulations to all of them as well. All right, so the tournament has concluded. How do we evaluate?
Let's maybe mention that Shevchenko is from the Ivan Bobersky Lviv State University of Physical Culture. It's important to mention the university. For sure, they are proud of their student. And the next 2 students are from US universities, from University of Missouri and St. Louis University. And then we have Leon is from Croatia, and Robbie again studies in the US universities. I actually noticed that many students were from US universities. For instance, in the Blitz championship, there were 8 men and female playing. So out of the 16 students, 9 of them were students of American universities.
So US is really strong at the...
US is really strong. The US university chess is very strong. As the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, we played in January a huge match, intercontinental match against the current champions of Russia. They are also the champions of Europe. Well, they won the Russian championship like 9 times in a row, maybe the European championship 3 times in a row. Still, the US champions, the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, won that match against the best team in Europe.
All right, so I guess we are done with today's tournament. Congratulations to all the winners. Thank you to all the viewers for watching and for staying with us. We are back with the action on Saturday at 6:30 or 5:30 p.m. UTC, I would say. So
yes,
thank you.
5:30 UPC.
Thank you, Bartek, for joining us as a tournament director. Thank you, Piotr, for joining me with the commentary. Do you want
thank you.
anything to say more?
Thank you, Antoni. That was pleasure to be your guest. Thank you for making those great commentaries, and we will see each other on Saturday.
Yeah, thank you too. It was a great pleasure to host this event, and